everybody!
Hey there, guys.
Welcome back to another Power Trip Gaming Powercast.
Oh, yes. Now you're listening with
power. Whoa!
I let you have the opening.
You don't let me.
And now I got to say, now you're listening with power. You said PTGPowercast. The Power Trip Gaming Powercast, and I let you say it on your own.
You don't let me say it.
You can let me say, now you're listening with power. You don't, like, I'm literally halfway through, you're like, now you're listening with power.
You don't let me say it. I say it because if I don't say it, nobody's going to.
Oh, I just said it. I was in the process of saying it.
You didn't say nothing.
He just likes to steal your thunder.
No, that's half the thing is us saying now you're listening with power in unison because it's
no, it's not
powerful. It's not powerful with one man.
It is powerful
with one man.
Let's try that again.
All right.
You open up a Power Trip Gaming Powercast, and I get to say, now you're listening with power on my own.
All right. Hey guys!
Hey everybody!
Welcome to another Power Trip Gaming Powercast!
Now you're listening
with power!
You're never gonna win this fight.
No, I'm not.
Sorry, Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
That was a good opening, actually. I like
that was the opening.
Put that before the music.
That was the opening.
All right, guys. It's another Power Trip Gaming Powercast, as you so rightly found out 2 or 3 times. How's everybody doing?
Surviving.
How are you guys doing?
Yeah, I'm doing okay.
Kevin, what did you bring over today?
So, I got sent up like Christmas cookies, and my mom found these alcoholic chocolates and decided to send them to me because she figures I'm an alcoholic or something.
Well, if the shoe fits.
You mean if I got nothing. I had a good setup. I was trying to come up with an alcohol joke.
If the bottle clanks.
I was saying the bottle drinks. So I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
So
yes.
There's little dark chocolates that are shaped like
little wine
bottles, and one's vodka and one's tequila.
Well, I opened one of each.
Why do you keep them next to each other?
That's what I'm going to do.
You don't even know which one's which.
This is good TV because, or good power casting because I'm juggling them and now I don't remember which one is which.
And now you have chocolate turd stains on it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So now I don't know whether it could be tequila or vodka. But yes, they're little chocolate bottles filled with alcohol.
I'm going tequila first.
Yeah, I just got the, I've got the tequila.
I'll let you know which one I get. All right, here we go.
Are we all trying to use it at the same time?
Yeah, sure, why not?
If you bought it, they're hollow.
Well, yeah, alcohol in it.
Like cherry cordials.
I don't know what I have. It must be vodka because I don't taste much of anything.
Oh, yeah, that's tequila, all right.
Yeah, I got the tequila, and that one, it wasn't bad.
I'm assuming mine's vodka.
It's not a very,
like shit.
it's not a very strong tequila taste, which is like nice. It complements it very well.
Usually, too, as you most people know as you cook alcohol, it loses some of its potency.
Yeah, but they didn't cook it though.
You have to mix it with sugar and slowly heat it to make the syrup that's inside these.
Oh, it's not actual liquid tequila.
No. I guarantee it's sugar or
I literally thought they took like a syringe and just like injected it in.
Dude, if it was that, I would be enjoying these a hell of a lot more. No, actually, it was pretty good though.
Yeah.
No, let's try the vodka.
I almost don't want to try the vodka one though.
Honestly, all it just tasted like to me was dark chocolate.
Yeah, but you don't even know which one you got.
I have no idea.
Oh,
but that's half the fun of this one.
Why don't you open that, or why don't you have that one? Is that one?
Oh, that's tequila.
Oh, okay.
That's tequila.
The tequila one was good, though.
They're both really good.
That's good.
This is a good podcast. No, these remind me of like back in the day when my parents used to bring home brandy cherries. You ever have those? They're like chocolate covered cherries, but
There's
the
no
syrup
smell to the vodka.
The syrup inside is brandy. It's so good. Those are good. Those are really good.
Yeah, there's no flavor to the vodka one, really.
No. The vodka one really doesn't have any flavor to it.
No, it's literally like liquid inside there, but you don't even know what the heck it is.
Well, that was interesting.
That was interesting.
Yeah, the tequila one definitely was the winner. All right, guys.
I definitely like the tequila one better.
Yeah, I kind of do too. I'm not a huge tequila fan, except for that one that you brought Was it from Mexico?
Yeah, the one with the glass pineapple on the bottom.
Oh my god, that was the smoothest. Like it was. Normally tequila makes me cough because I'm not a hard alcohol kind of guy. Yeah. I'm an amaretto sour, little baby drinks.
If it's not frou-frou, he's not drinking it.
It's delicious.
I don't do shots, but tequila is the one that I can do shots of.
But the one you brought that one time was so good and smooth. Like that was a dangerous one. Just like I love my wines, Moscato, delicious. Moscato's dangerous for me,
Right.
but wine gives me a headache. As it does most people.
Yes.
There is no worse hangover than a wine hangover.
A wine hangover is
Never had a hangover.
worst.
I can't drink anymore. I'm too young. Or too old now. Woodchuck. And
That sucks. Yeah, it sucks to be too young.
Alright, well that was good.
Okay.
But anyway, what's going on with you guys in your lives? Paul, have you played Pokemon yet?
No.
You still see him?
Fuck!
Yes.
Son of a bitch!
So he's gonna be just like you with his PS3 game, with your PS3 games.
No,
he's gonna have it looking all pretty on a shelf, and it's still gonna be shrink wrapped.
Which is sad because he's going to lose out on the free money he gets from the game disc.
What do you mean from the game disc?
So on the Switch, they have a program where you can claim these coins, and it's basically money for the shop.
Oh, okay.
But you have to redeem it within a year of the game's release.
Oh, no, well,
time.
I do plan on opening it. Actually, tonight I actually have to go to the airport, and so I was actually going to bring my Switch with me, and I'm gonna bring Pokemon.
There you go.
There you go.
With me. So do they like all games? Then you can redeem.
Yeah.
How do you?
They all
redeem?
have. There's a slip of paper in it that comes in. It says something about Nintendo coins.
Oh, okay.
And you'll go into the shop. You'll put in whatever code they have, and then it'll.
Oh, God.
They've been doing it since
easy.
the 3DS, I think.
I have no idea.
Well,
but no, with this, if you just hit like the options button on the game, there's like a My Rewards option in the menu. You hit that, and then it says claim game.
Well, just because I played through all of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, and I don't recall seeing that. But I mean, maybe I wasn't also looking for it either. So.
Yeah, I said because I know one of my Switch games came with a code to do it.
Oh, that might be for something else. That might be.
Well,
for...
it gave me coins. That's why it's used in the shop because it was like $5 worth of coins.
Yeah, I'll show you when we're done. But that's why I've made it a habit. Anytime I get a Switch game, first thing I do is pop it in to get the game up on the screen and get any updates that need and claim the coins. The only thing that sucks. And
They
found this out.
after a
Well, they disappear after a year. So if a game is released more than a year ago, you can't claim coins, which I think is
And if you buy them from GameStop or pre-owned, you don't get the coins either.
You don't get the coins. It says, which is weird, but I guess kind of makes sense.
Well, my guess is like the carts probably have some sort of data that gets written into them when they first get powered on,
or maybe like maybe online. Maybe there's some sort of box check in their system that's like, yep, this one's been claimed.
Probably.
Because I remember I bought a game pre-owned and I tried to claim the coins and it's like, you've already claimed these. And I'm like,
well, wouldn't it
claim shit?
Well, wouldn't it be just like what is it, like downloadable content and stuff like that?
It'd be like
the bonuses that come with some special edition games. Like once you claim it, like even the pre-owned places, they put on there like DLC has been claimed or something like that. So it's like the same thing with the coins.
Or it's like the cards have built in. Remember serial keys for PC games?
Yeah.
And maybe that's something like that where it does a server check and it's like, oh no, this one's already been matched up.
My first thought was I thought it was going to be based on an account. So if like this account has already claimed it, you know what I mean?
That makes more sense. But then again, you could abuse the system that way.
Yeah, so I kind of understand why they did it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe next time you get the chance, load up your games into there and claim the coins because I mean it's not much. It's usually like anywhere from 50 cents to $1, but it adds up.
It adds up if you buy a couple games.
Yeah.
But honestly, I wouldn't expect Nintendo to allow people from like secondhand stores to be able to redeem that stuff.
No.
I mean, hell, they did the Star Tropics thing, that code that you need to give to Sub-C so that you can dive, that 747 that you have to put like the letter from your uncle underwater.
Yeah.
They literally did that so that even like the renting, the used shops and like Blockbusters and stuff like that was a way to combat you from renting the game. Like you had to buy the game to get the code to make it past that point of the game.
Which is funny because even as a kid in Star Tropics, that was about as far as we could make it without having to rifle through.
Yeah, because you didn't have the instruction booklet.
Without having to rifle through the Nintendo Powers to find the code.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I suppose
it was interesting, but they also did it as almost like copyright type thing.
Yeah.
So
made you buy the game new.
Old school DRM.
Yeah, right?
Love it.
But, alright, so you still haven't played Pokemon.
Topic.
Neat.
Yes, I still haven't gotten a Surfetched. Yeah,
Son
thanks.
of a bitch.
Don't worry, we'll kick your ass with them.
Oh, stupidest Pokemon. Stupid.
But yeah.
All right, what's new with you?
Not too much. I've actually played. What was I playing last time we were on? Who cares? I started playing Anthem for the PS4. Very underrated game. I actually plan on having this conversation as a topic on our next Powercast, but like that type of genre. But I like the game a lot. It's a shame that people received it very poorly.
Oh yeah, well,
Which I can see a little bit. It's kind of glitchy. There are some issues I've run into where things are happening that shouldn't be happening, or like I'll change the color on my Javelin and all of a sudden my entire color palette goes purple or white, and like things freak out that shouldn't. So I close the game and restart it and everything corrects itself. So I mean, I can see where it's kind of buggy. It almost feels... It feels like a Bethesda game.
it's not that bad. I can't make stairs with paintbrushes, so...
But no, I absolutely adored the game. I think it was great, because I went on a kick where it's like, I kind of wanted to get back into Destiny 2, but
and then you tried.
Destiny fucked everything up. Destiny 2 is completely a shell of what it used to be. And it made me so mad that I kind of wanted to just play something else. Like, Destiny 2 now is free to play. Comes with... Yeah, so even you could pick up Destiny 2 right now for free.
That's terrible because, well, I mean, it's good for people who've never played it before, but what about the people who paid, like, full price for this game?
It gets better. The first 3 expansions are all free.
Oh, wow.
So the season pass for Destiny 2, if I'm not mistaken, was another $60, right?
I don't know.
Something like that. So I spent $60 for the base game. I did not get the season pass, but had I, that's another $60, which are now all free. So really, they're making you pay for the latest 2 expansions, Forsaken and Shadowkeep, because that's where, like, the game, they kind of broke away from Activision, Bungie did. So that's kind of where the breaking point was at Forsaken and that. So really, they pretty much reduced the game to $40.
Wow.
Because you can get everything else for free, and then these 2 expansions were about $40.
Yeah.
So I loaded it back up, and I was like, all right, well, let's see what's new, whatever. Because I started a new character. I'm like, I'll go through like the stories and stuff again. The stories are completely optional. Like for like the story for Destiny 2 and the 3 expansions, you don't even have to do the story. So it's like, I feel it almost went true MMO instead of like how the games originally started, where it was story-based but could also be played with more people. I don't know how to explain it. I just feel like there's no sense of progression. I don't want to buy Forsaken and Shadowkeep. So maybe those they force you to do the story, but I don't think they do.
I would highly doubt it.
So it just seems, to me, the game's... It's definitely a shell of its former self. And it made me really mad. So I broke away from it, and then I plugged in Anthem because Kevin bought it for me for when it launched, and I hadn't played it, which I felt bad, but...
No, you didn't. You still have PS3 games you have never touched.
That's true, but Anthem I felt bad because we were supposed to play it together.
How long has El Shaddai been out?
That's a good point.
And it's still shrink-wrapped?
My brother got me for Christmas one year.
And that game was amazing?
It was. The demo was amazing.
I still have Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah, I got for you. Yeah. I'm surprised you haven't traded it in yet.
I don't blame you on that one.
I don't trade in games.
Hey, fuck you. I love that game. I love the 13 series.
I know you do.
I don't trade in games.
But, so yeah, I love Anthem. I really hope that they pick up more of it and it continues on, because it was a great concept. Story was great. The lore was great. Everything just felt really cool.
I didn't say gameplay-wise, it's one of the smoothest games of that type I can think of.
Yeah.
And then being able to transition from like running on the ground to flying like flawlessly.
Yeah.
Was amazing.
Your javelins can fly. That's the name.
You're basically Iron Man.
Yeah. Have you ever? You wouldn't know the reference.
Yeah, Iron Man.
No. Well, yeah, I suppose Iron Man.
What's the reference that you're...
Bubblegum Crisis. You wouldn't.
The anime?
It's an anime.
Oh, okay.
From like back in the day.
No.
No, it's Iron Man in his various suits. The Colossus is the Hulkbuster.
Okay.
The Ranger is his basic core model. The Storm would be one of his specialty, like, space-based ones because it's a wizard.
Oh, okay.
And then the Interceptor is one of his lightweight stealth suits that's super fast.
Okay.
So yeah, there's like the 4 classes and stuff. And
Gotta speak in terms he knows.
That works. That's clear as day. Clear as day.
But no, like, just the movement is flawless. It was great.
And each of the classes at least feels completely different, even though the base, like, the core gameplay is still shooting.
Yeah.
Because of their abilities and stuff, the way they handle is very different. Like, Interceptor is, like, a melee-based thing, so I can run in and use dual-bladed daggers and beat the shit out of things, whereas, like, Storm is sitting back and
Casting
doing
spells.
his finger-wiggling spells at people.
Felt like force powers.
Finger wiggling.
But anyway, that's topic for another day. What have you been up to, Kevin? What have you been playing?
Just recently played Fallen Order, and that was...
What is Fallen Order?
Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh, okay.
Amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I heard it was a lot of platforming.
Yes. It's more... Imagine... something like the Uncharted series or early Tomb Raiders, where it's more... It's the story, and then you're going through environments to, like, get the piece together to stuff with combat sections in between to basically break it up. And then combat is... A lot of people are going to be like, oh, it's, the Dark Souls or style. It's slower combat like that, but, like, your actions feel like they have kind of weight behind it, even though it's a little odd to say about a lightsaber.
So, like, Monster Hunter, sort of?
Star Wars Force Unleashed?
Not as arcadey feeling.
Oh, okay.
But, like, there's more emphasis on, like, the exploration and platforming. And
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's more platforming than Force Unleashed.
Yeah.
It's not like a hack and slash.
The combat is... Yeah, it's really weird how to explain it, because... Because, like, there are certain enemies where you, like, basic stormtroopers, it's basically either just deflect their blaster bolts back at them, or just get in their face and hit them once they're dead. But then you have, like, purge troopers, which are slightly stronger guys that they have to, like, take your time and counterattack. In that regard, it's kind of like Sekiro, where it's the timed blocks. You'll time block it and you'll knock them off their balance. So you can get an opening to hit them and stuff like that.
So it's like a parry system.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It played really well, though. I'll have to bring the disc over and have you play that one.
Yeah.
I think you'll enjoy that one.
We'll have to look at that.
And it's not ridiculous over the top force powers like Force Unleashed had.
Yeah. I remember Force Unleashed was a little...
I loved Force Unleashed.
I liked it too.
It was a cool, like, idea. I've never played them, but I remember watching you play them, and I thought it was a neat concept. But,
Force Unleashed 1 was fantastic. Force Unleashed 2 overpromised and underdelivered so badly.
Yeah.
Fable, anybody?
Well, and part of the big issue, like, Force Unleashed wise, they screwed stuff up as far as...
Where was it supposed to fall in the timeline? Wasn't Force Unleashed like a
in between? It was the first game to take place in between prequel and original trilogy.
Yeah,
that's what
between
I thought.
3 and 4, because I think Darth Vader was at the end of Force Unleashed 1.
because
And then they had the dark side ending where you could kill Vader and become...
And then you become basically Vader.
You become the new Vader.
You become the Emperor's apprentice.
Oh, cool.
So,
yeah.
And then I remember there was downloadable content where there was actually...
Luke.
Yeah, there was actually levels in Episode 5, and I want to say, was there an Episode 6 one? Yeah, there was like an Endor one, too.
Well, the game... was there Endor? I know you played as Vader and Kashyyyk.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You also played as Vader and Kashyyyk. Yeah.
At the very beginning of the game.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, it was good old days. But actually, oh, I'm sorry, were you done?
No,
that was
go
good. That'll transfer
right into our topic.
Right it'll transition right into the topic of today's discussion.
Wow, it looks like you're on your A game.
Oh,
those alcohol chocolates affecting you already?
You guys can't see it, but I'm spitting my head.
Maybe it's this shit you're drinking.
Which is indicative when he spins his head, that means he knows he's drunk.
I drunk. No, it'll transition nicely into the topic of the day. The
Pokemon.
One of the most, well, that's close. One of the most powerful franchises in cinema and almost game history in a weird way.
No, not game history.
Well, it's got a long.
It's got a long history.
It does have a long history, and
it goes back all the way to the Atari.
And it used arcade to be, before then.
And it used to be powerful. It's not quite as powerful as it was, and it's only going downhill from here.
Well, anyway, Star Wars. I don't like it.
I can't.
I hate you.
Why?
I hate you so much.
Okay, so let's start off by trying to get to the bottom of this. What do you not like about Star Wars?
I can answer this right now. He does not like things that are cool.
No, it's not that.
You don't like things that are fun.
No, it's not that. Which, honestly,
you'd rather be playing stupid games.
Well, it's
Destiny
funny.
too much?
You're such a jackass. Well, it's funny because, when I think about it, it should technically tick all the boxes of things I like. I like sci-fi, and I love,
sword and sorcery.
Swords and sorcery and stuff like that. So Star Wars, I should love.
Because it's in line with some of the Final Fantasy games that are the combination of fantasy and sci-fi.
Yeah, or Star Ocean, or Phantasy Star. I love those games. But Star Wars, I can't get into it, and I don't know why. I've only ever seen 2 movies. Episode 1 and Episode 5.
Okay.
So it's a little weird.
Yeah.
But, I don't know,
Is it because of the whole mythos? There's just too much to take in?
God, no, that's not the...
Oh, that never would have been an issue for him, because he doesn't read,
No.
so he would
I don't read, and I couldn't give less of a shit about that, but I feel like maybe it's the way they present it in the movies that made it so where I didn't like it.
Well, I'm going to say, transitioning from the original trilogy to the prequels, they do sort of...
Well, they fuck things up.
They kind of shit on the mysticism of the Force.
Because one of the big things I remember in the first... Now it fucks me up, because when I say original trilogy, that's 4, 5, and 6.
Yes.
So when I'm...
Prequels.
The prequel trilogy made the Force like little bugs.
Yes, it made it Metachlorians, which is kind of like a
space bugs.
Yes, it's
like space scabies.
No, it's not.
Oh my god!
No,
because it's in your cells. It's not on your skin.
It's in your cells.
I know.
Oh my god!
It's space scabies.
That entire thing never made sense to me because that explains how the Force is in organic stuff. Does not explain how it's in inorganic stuff.
Yeah.
See, I always thought the Force was supposed to be like
a mystical energy field.
Yeah, like an ethereal type of thing that you channel. Like that was the idea of the Force. It's like for all intents and purposes, like bending from like Avatar. Like it's an energy that you harness and shape, not so much that you I don't know. But then they talk about Force sensitive people, and then there's bugs, and it got so bizarre.
So I honestly I think that the reason why it went down the road of Metachlorians is because yes, there was the original trilogy. When people refer to the original trilogy, they mean episode 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
They were the first ones that came out. 1977 was episode 4,
God,
80,
that blows my mind.
and 83.
Technically, when it released in 77, it was just literally Star Wars.
It was just Star Wars,
It wasn't episode 4.
Nope, it wasn't.
Granted, it was already written as part of a larger saga, but it was literally just called Star Wars when it released.
Wasn't, and it wasn't, episode 5 was called Star Wars Episode 5, Empire Strikes
And that
Back.
actually confused a lot of people.
Yeah, and then they went back retroactively and did change Episode 4, or A New Hope to Episode 4.
Yeah.
Because literally, George Lucas didn't know if it was even going to be successful, so he basically...
grabbed his favorite part of the story.
That's why Episode 4, A New Hope, why you can start it, you can stop it, and you don't have to see another Star Wars movie. It'll feel like it's its own complete story, because he didn't know if he was going to get a chance to tell more stories.
That's kind of what each trilogy feels like. Is it's a self-contained story if you just watch those trilogies.
It is to a point. But with episode 1, so George Lucas had already made episodes 4, 5, and 6. You knew that Darth Vader was the ultimate baddie of the entire galaxy, feared throughout all of the planets.
Wouldn't that be the Emperor?
Well,
Is the Emperor technically the big baddie?
But he's more of like the Emperor's hand. Like he's the guy. He's the guy who you see
Well,
like
you also gotta
out in the
remember-
front lines.
Yeah.
In the original trilogy, you don't see Palpatine until
episode. You see him as a hologram in episode 5, but you do not see him physically until the final movie.
Yeah.
When he electrocutes people?
Yes.
That actually, I saw that part. That was one of the few parts I did see of episode 6 is when he was shocking the dude. I remember thinking, oh, that guy's ugly.
So Darth Vader has always kind of been the face of like the Empire. Is Emperor Palpatine has always been doing it behind the curtain. People knew who he was, but people were scared of Darth Vader because he was the one who would like physically go somewhere to.
He was his enforcer for the mob boss
to do something bad. And so everybody already knew that he was the ultimate baddie of the galaxy. Well, then episode 1 happens, and it's like, well, he's got to come from somewhere, and we know that he was a good person, he was a Jedi that was special, that then ended up turning to the dark side. It's like, well, how do we distinguish how he is special? What makes him more special than others? It's like, well, no, Yoda is old, he's smart, he's wise, like, he is distinguished, but how do we make Anakin... I got it.
Space Jesus.
Space germs. We got it. Metachlorians. He's got more metachlorians. We'll say he's even got more metachlorians than Yoda even. So he is a space anomaly. We don't know what happened. So therefore, boom, this kid's the chosen one, and he's going to become a Jedi who then goes on the path to the dark side.
Well, I think, even in some of Lucas's original like drafts for the story, metachlorians I think were originally in there.
I don't think they played a very big role of it.
They were mentioned at like they're in his notes somewhere
because he had something of like the wills too or something.
They actually exist in the series.
Yes, well,
because there's the father, the mother, the brother, and the sister.
Yeah,
they all exist. Those are the wills. They weren't put in until like much later. Because they kind of expanded on the whole, mythos of the Force.
Is that supposed to be like the Holy Trinity?
Basically, yes. Of like the Force, yeah.
Sort of, but they're not actually.
But this is
not really beings.
And it's not a religion. It's like a.
And it's not a religion. Yeah. No, it's not a religion.
They are literally just Force entities that.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
That basically represent the various aspects of the Force, which then gets a little confusing because there are different schools of thought on what the Force are. There's like the living Force, I can't remember what the other ones are. But there's the Force is alive, the Force is a tool, and the Force is just bullshit type thinking.
Yeah.
So,
But yes, episodes 4, 5, and 6 were fantastic.
77, that blows my mind.
Episodes 1, 2, and 3, they weren't so very well received. People really... I don't think that people were turned away completely from it, especially since episode 3 really kind of like...
I heard it really darkened it up.
It was good. And then, what was it? 12 years later, they released episode 7, 8, 9 once Disney took over the properties, and now it's kind of doing that slide again.
I also think going from the original trilogy back to the prequel trilogy, I think there was a bit of it was kind of jarring going from one filmmaking style to another, because 4, 5, and 6, while Lucas did 4, was it Irvin Kershner did 5, and then
Richard Marquand,
and who did 6?
Richard Marquardt.
Okay, yeah. So Lucas wrote it, but then he had other people come in, chiefly his wife at the time, who did clean up on the script, change dialogue, did this, and then other people directed. That's why those movies were so good.
Yeah.
With 1, 2, and 3, it was Lucas doing all of it.
He did everything, yeah.
The dialogue was shitty because Lucas can't write dialogue. Lucas to me is like Kojima, for video games. Great idea, man. Don't let him be in charge of doing shit.
Well, and the problem is, if you've ever seen documentaries on him,
he's egotistical as fuck.
He was, and people were scared to say no to him.
Yep.
So he would literally, whatever was plopped in front of them is like, George, this is great. This is gonna be fantastic.
To be honest, he
Jar Jar Binks.
For a while at the height of his thing, he was like Spielberg in that no one ever wanted to say no because they didn't want to turn down the next multi-billion-dollar movie franchise. And that's kind of how directors like that get to a point where they start producing crap and people
Nobody
are just
says anything.
Yay! I mean, it's no. I mean, look at Avatar. Pretty. shallow as fuck.
Oh no, I hate that movie.
There's nothing to it other than it's pretty and looked good for the 3D.
No, it's Pocahontas.
Yeah.
I was thinking Dances with Wolves. But
It's the
same story.
It's the same story.
Yeah.
Same story.
But yeah, back to Star Wars. So, like, there's also like a tonal shift in the storytelling because 1, 2, and 3 are very political thrillers with bits of like sci-fi and action put into them.
1, 2, and 3 looked depressing to me because you know he's going to become Darth Vader. So like, there's a point, and I think this maybe part of me is hard to watch because it's like I kind of already know what's going to happen with 1, 2, and 3 and all that, and it's like 1, 2, and 3. It's like, all right, you see this and you hope he's going to be good. He's not, but you know he's not. So
well,
it's
that also sort of makes the story that much more depressing because you know no matter what he does, he's going to fall.
Yeah.
And but it's one of those things where it's not so much the destination, it's how he got there.
Right.
That's important for the storytelling. But yeah, like it became very, very political because of all the Trade Federation stuff and all the scenes with the Senate. Then they, made screw-ups like introducing Jar Jar Binks, where he should not have been as much of a focal point as a comedic character.
Yeah.
He should have been 1 or 2 scenes and then off to the bucket with you. We don't care anymore.
Yeah.
But instead, Lucas kept pushing him to the forefront of everything, and it was just like, why are you giving us this character? No one wants him.
No.
But I didn't say I wouldn't say the franchise as a whole is on the decline because if you watch The Mandalorian,
I think there's still
Favreau,
definitely
he needs to be put in charge of Star Wars.
No, and not even just that. Him combined with Dave Filoni as well too. I mean, there are people who are very talented storytellers and mythos builders, like Jon Favreau with The Mandalorian, with Dave Filoni and Rebels, and Clone Wars as well too. I mean, there's a lot of really good stories that they can still tell. It's just that the way that they're forcing it down people's throats, and with the whole thing of this forced diversity, it's like it tends to be a little bit too, because people know that they're shoehorning in these types of things instead of putting them in because it's naturally and organically going to get to that point in the story.
Yeah. I would say, that's... To be honest, Disney needs to restructure everyone that's, like I said, in charge of the Star Wars right now. Get Kathleen Kennedy out. She's done some good stuff by, approving stuff, but then she's done some good things, but overall it's been negative.
Yeah, no, she hasn't done anything good.
Well, it feels like for the past, however many... past the prequels, it feels like all of the side stuff is doing better than the main line.
Well,
and part of me feels like that's because with 7, 8, 9, right? No matter what they did, you're not going to please everybody because everybody already has an idea of what Star Wars should be. So it's like one of those things where you're not going to be able to please most people, and I think people's hopes are so high for it that it's like I almost wonder if the pressure of it. How do we make this?
You can definitely see that with Episode 8.
Yeah, how can we make this franchise as memorable as 4, 5, and 6, or 1, 2, and 3 to some people?
So here's what ended up happening with the this new trilogy, the Disney trilogy. Episode 7, you could tell. Okay, so J.J. Abrams was the guy who directed it. You could tell that he was very nervous about, and in fact, the first time that they had approached him to direct it, because they liked what he did with Star Trek, and how he said straight down, he turned him down. He's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to touch it because
how do you want to touch such an iconic?
There's
thing?
no way that I can make this I can make it good. I can't please everybody, and I just feel like it's going to backfire on me. Well, they finally gave him a big enough deal where he said, all right, I'm going to do it. Well, his way of doing it was, I'm going to create new characters. However, though, I'm going to use it in the backdrop of it's going to be a soft reboot to Episode 4. Okay. So a lot of it...
Which I was okay with. There was a lot of unexplained stuff, unfortunately, that sucked. But you can clearly see with 7 that... he had a trilogy in mind.
He did.
He had an overall story, basically of how this is how I wanted to go, and he chose the soft reboot of Episode 4 to kind of ease people into the new stuff, which I appreciated sort of, but at the same time, it's like, we've seen this movie before, just jump to the new stuff.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's where it's like 7 stumbled. 8 just jumped off a cliff and said, I don't care where the ground is.
Well,
We'll get there.
We're getting there. But he knew that it was a very tight rope that he was walking. So he played it the safe way. And that movie still ended up doing gangbusters at the box office. It was one of the very few movies that has grossed over $2 billion.
Well, how long had it been since a Star Wars movie came out at that point?
It had been about, was it 2005 was when so 10 years. It was about 10 years.
So, I mean, people were probably itching
waiting
to get
for
a Star Wars.
But they also wanted to see what he was going to do with this movie. So then so it grossed $2 billion. It was fantastic. Then you had Rogue One, which was one of their standalone Star Wars stories the following year. And that one grossed about, I think it was like $1.5 billion. So, I mean, it still did really good.
And it's like, with Rogue One, if you thought like the prequel trilogies were like, oh, I already know how this is going to end, Rogue One was that way worse.
Really?
Yeah, because Rogue One is literally a 90-minute run-up to Episode 4.
Literally. So in Episode 4, they basically get the plans to find the weakness of the Death Star.
Right.
And what Rogue One is that you find out that this guy is being forced against his will to work for the Empire. Or for the Galactic Empire, and he is creating he's one of the leads of the creation of the Death Star.
Which technically goes against what 1, 2, and 3 established.
What's that? 1,
2, and 3 established the Geonosians or whatever? Geonosians? The bug people?
They designed it.
They designed and we're building building the Death Star for the Empire. Like unless
they could play it where they designed it and then the guy from
they kind of muddled it up.
He basically created or was one of the lead creators of the Death Star. Anyways, he was the one who put in the shaft that was big enough for a photon torpedo and created this big weakness, this vulnerability that then was able to be exploited in Episode 4 where Luke shoots the photon torpedo through
Use the Force, Luke!
And destroys it. But anyways, it was a $1.5 billion movie. The series was still going great. Then they started to they wanted to initially, and I think that even though they were still going to incorporate ideas from everybody's ideas, they had decided that the main trilogy, Episode 7, 8, 9, they wanted 3 different directors for it. So they wanted J.J. Abrams. He was going to kick it off and get his ideas out there. Then it was going to be continued by Rian Johnson.
Rian Johnson.
Well, Ryan.
It's Rian.
I'm going to call him Ryan. Because
Fuck him!
Everybody calls him Ryan. I'm sorry. But anyways, and then the trilogy was going to be ended by a guy named Colin Trevorrow, who had actually done Jurassic World. And
so they kind of wanted to recapture like 4, 5, and 6.
It was almost like 4, 5, and 6, where you had 3 different directors for 3 different movies.
Okay.
But those ideas, like the 3 guys were going to be working together throughout the whole duration of it, so that they weren't jumping over each other, or so that they weren't incorporating ideas that had absolutely no bearing on the other ones. They all wanted it to fit together with these 3 guys.
Okay.
Well, Johnson had a different idea of how he wanted to do his movie.
Don't we all?
So he had literally, before Episode 7 even started, he had written his idea of what he wanted his part in the movie to be. Episode 7 came out, and he decided, I don't want to change anything of the way that I wrote mine, so I'm going to just keep it the way that it is.
Yeah.
And he didn't change a thing. So the characterizations of the main characters are nothing like they had been in the other movies. There were things that were established in that movie that had never been done before, that should not have been done. There was a scene where Leia, who is, I mean, she's never really practiced the Force. She's been Force sensitive.
Well, and see, that's where so this is where it gets complicated, because there was after 4 came out, and then
there is another,
and then 5 came out. There was a lot of people wanted more Star Wars, They started writing the novels.
Yes, of course.
It expanded into this huge expanded universe. It was the novels, it was comic books, and stuff like that. Well, in the books, Leia wasn't just Force sensitive, but a Force practitioner in some of the stuff.
Yeah, of course she was.
So, and then when Disney bought the property, they basically said all of the old extended universe
is
garbage.
It's legends. It's no longer canon.
It's no longer anything. But they started picking and choosing aspects out of different stories, even for episode 7, that they liked from the expanded universe stuff and started using it without making sure it actually fit well into the plot.
Because wasn't the whole animated series, wasn't that... What was that series called?
Clone Wars?
Clone Wars. Wasn't that considered non-canon as well?
Yes,
there was...
The hand-drawn one is no longer canon.
Correct.
But the CGI
one is still considered canon.
Okay.
So is Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah. Rebels is canon.
Which is really, really good.
And I believe Mandalorian, obviously, now that it's Disney, it is canon as well, too. But anyways, Johnson had his own idea. A lot of the things that were built up in episode 7 were basically just either disregarded or ignored completely.
Oh,
Knights of Ren.
Yeah, Knights of Ren was something that they had brought
Luke
up.
failing.
So Kylo Ren is one of the main bad guys in episode 7, and you find that he is a leader of this group called the Knights of Ren. Well, Johnson does not refer to the Knights of Ren at all in that movie.
Nice.
There's literally one part where in episode 7, Maz Kanata is one of the characters. She ends up getting Luke's lightsaber. When he basically got his hand cut off in episode 5 and it falls in through the garbage chute of Cloud City. She somehow had that lightsaber, and you don't find out how the hell she encountered it, how she got it. And so she even says to the characters, that's a good story for another time. Well, Johnson never came back to that story. Never made any comments.
That's a side story that I'd rather see in comic form or something anyways.
Maybe, but whatever. So then he also had, in episode 7, this character named Supreme Leader Snoke, who is this big, ginormous
Is that the guy with the 4 arms?
4 arms.
No, maybe. Who am I thinking of? Or is he's like a robot dude with 4 arms?
General Grievous?
Maybe that's...
General Grievous. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's what I was thinking.
Stop it. And so Snoke was this big, menacing guy who you think, he's replacing
Sidious,
Sidious and the Emperor, and he's the leader of this new order. I think called the First Order, basically, and so you could tell that J.J. Abrams was building him up to be something big. And what does Johnson do? He completely just disregards him. Kills him off in the movie, and it's the stupidest thing. It's the stupidest way to kill him.
I was okay with Kylo striking him down. I think that was fitting, showing him stepping up to try to be the next Sith Lord type thing.
Sorry for somebody.
The way they did it though was such a bitch move.
For somebody how powerful he was, he couldn't tell that was happening.
Yeah,
come on.
I was about to say, isn't that the whole idea of the Sith is it's power over everything?
Well,
and it's a lot of backstabbing and shit like that. See, I remember in the games that was a big thing.
But that was also one of the things too, is that people had said that Snoke was never mentioned as being a Sith. He was not a Sith. He was a dark side practitioner, but he never was
technically
a Sith.
Vader and Palpatine aren't Sith either.
I'm about to say, because I remember in the original, in episode 1, you meet that what is Darth Maul, and they say, he's only Sith left. Where's the rest of them?
Well,
he's not, is he?
That's where it gets super fucking complicated. With
it's they talk about the Sith, and they're just he's the last one, and you never see another one.
No, so
it's what the fuck are they talking about?
That's where it gets like I said, it gets really complicated.
It gets a little bit complicated because actually, there was the novelization of episode 1, which is canon because it's the book of episode 1.
Right.
But they basically establish in there that they don't actually bring up in the movie is that there was a Sith Lord by the name of Darth Bane, who there was a lot of different...
Spoilers from the old EU that Disney didn't want to use either.
Yeah, well, technically he is canon because he was in the novelization.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of lore with Darth Bane that they basically just said, yep, it's now disregarded. But there was a lot of Sith out there, lots and lots of them, and it was Darth Bane who said that there was too much backstabbing, there was too much of this. We have to take, like, they're all vying for the power, and they're basically destroying themselves trying to beat the light side. So it was him who said he initiated the rule of 2, where there can only be a master and there can only be one apprentice at a time. So there's only 2.
Which Palpatine flat out disregards.
Yes, he did.
Because Palpatine trained Dooku and Maul and Vader all simultaneously.
Well, not really Vader. Vader came
Episode 3 after he kills Dooku. But he was already guiding Anakin down that path.
But he
violated the rule of 2.
But he was still definitely
Maybe
training.
why he failed.
He was definitely training Dooku and Maul at the same time. That was
So, what race was Darth Maul?
He is...
I can't remember what his race is.
Because every time I think Sith, all I picture is Maul. But he's not... Like, Sith isn't a race, it's a religion, right?
No,
Just like
no.
Jedi?
No. Sith originally was a race. There is a race that are called the Pureblood Sith that were originally on a planet, and now none of this is good anymore because it was all the extended universe.
Right. I thought it was like the Jedi Order, where it's more of a mindset than an actual physical being.
So there were this Sith race that they used the Force, but they considered it sorcery.
Okay.
Then dark side practitioners basically started getting attracted to the planet because of all the dark energy and stuff like that.
Right.
And they basically wiped out the old Sith and took their name and teachings and became the Sith for, like, Force users.
Okay. The Sith reminds me of... You remember Morrowind?
Yeah.
Do you remember the houses, the great houses?
Yeah.
Telvanni was one of them. The Sith remind me of Telvanni, where it's the strong survive. Like, I remember one of the teachings of Telvanni is when you're, like, if you have something somebody else covets and they kill you, they're fine. Like, there is no charge for murder because they should have been able to protect it from you.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's like Apocalypse from X-Men.
Yeah.
It's the survival of the fittest mentality, and why the fuck can't I think of his species name?
Zabrak.
There we go.
That was one of the greatest things I loved about the Telvanni is when you're trying to become, I believe they call it the Hortator of, like, because you have to assemble all the races and all of the houses under one banner. They all need to recognize you. It's like the one, obviously for like the other great houses, you have to get them to agree with you. So you have to do all these stupid bitch things to make them want to choose you as their Hortator. For the Telvanni, they're like, yeah, you can either do it or you can just kill them. One or the other. Like, if you kill them, well, maybe they should have chose to make you the Hortator. Like, it was really interesting. And I remember the Telvanni was such an interesting, and that's what the Sith reminds me of. Yeah. It's kind of like if you die, it's because you were not strong enough.
Yeah. Well, and like the Sith originally had, like, well, there was that's right, they changed the name. So originally there was a Sith planet too called Korriban, which is now Morriban. Because it changed the name for some stupid reason.
I don't know. It was Korriban in the books. Yeah,
I feel like I remember
and games.
Yeah,
and then I think was it Clone Wars or was it Rebels that they changed it to Morriban?
I don't remember.
Because I remember Korriban, I thought, from Old Republic.
I think it was 2 when you went there.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
It was such a stupid little thing to change too. Like, why?
Yeah.
Let's take a K and turn it that way.
Yeah.
But goddamn, where was I gonna go? Yeah, so Sith originally like had the academies and stuff like that, and they were a lot like the Jedi, but just, you know, dark side users. Mm-hmm. And like the whole rule of 2 concept was just dumb, because like, okay, yeah, it's a rule of 2, but that doesn't mean like, okay, so say Paul's the Sith Lord, you're his apprentice. So the rule of 2 basically states that me as another dark side practitioner, I should not exist. You guys should be killing me. But I can go way the fuck over there away from you, get my own apprentice, and start my rule of 2 over there. And there's nothing to stop it.
Yeah, that's true.
The rule of 2 was just, it was an interesting concept, but it's such a flawed idea of basically this entire galaxy is for this Sith Lord and this apprentice, but it doesn't work. How can 2 people take on thousands of Jedi?
I thought it seemed like it's the way you guys make it sound. It's a way of keeping the apprentice from usurping the
But that's also how you become the masters. You kill your lord.
Yeah, but it's. I think it was also their way of explaining why in Star Wars lore it was always like, okay, so Obi-Wan trained Luke, Yoda trained Obi-Wan. and then they continued it. Like episode 1, it was Qui-Gon Jinn had trained Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Well, Yoda trained Qui-Gon Jinn. Well, and then you find out later that actually Count Dooku was the one who trained Qui-Gon Jinn.
Well,
and Yoda trained Count Dooku. So it's like
with the Jedi, it's slightly different because all Jedi train all Padawans, even though they have one specific teacher, the one master they're under.
Yeah.
They do learn from all the other Jedi, whereas the Sith are, you're my apprentice. If you're getting instruction from someone else, I'm either going to kill them or you. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, the Sith are always so self-destructive that... I
like the idea of it because it was a way that it was always told that the Sith needed to stop battling each other and turn their attention to the light side. Like, we're killing each other. We need to stop doing this to get more powerful and take the battle to them where it really needs to be. So the rule of 2 was established so that it's like they weren't just having this civil war and all this strife trying to gain all this power. It was to direct it to where it was supposed to be. Great in principle.
The funny thing is,
execution didn't really.
If you look at like how the Sith were, though, they were doing better than the Jedi were.
Yes, they were.
Even with all the infighting, when it came time, they were like, "All right, we'll stop fighting for a minute. We're gonna take that. It's ours now. Okay, now we can fight over who has it.
That was...
Up. We got another threat. We're gonna go fight them. And then we're gonna start fighting each other again." And they were doing better than the Jedi ever could because the Jedi were like, "We're not gonna fight. We're gonna think about this."
The Jedi never made sense to me because their whole thing was apathy, right? You don't want to go one way or the other because then that influences what you're doing.
Yeah,
sort of. That's why both ideals are stupid.
But I also too, and I don't think anybody has ever brought this up. And but I cannot be the first one to make this observation, is that in episode 1, I never understood the idea of the Chosen One. Like, they say that he is supposed to bring balance to the Force. Well, when you look at episode 1, and then you go into like, even episode 1. So the Jedi are saying that the Sith have been extinct for a millennium, and they haven't been around for a long time. And now the Sith have returned, and yet you see that the Jedi, there's multiple Jedi, there's even a council of Jedi, and then you find out...
thousands upon thousands of
and then
Jedi.
you find out in episode 2, there's a whole shit ton of Jedi. It's like, if he is the Chosen One, and he's supposed to bring balance to the Force...
Why would they see that coming?
Why wouldn't they see that coming?
But see, there's two things. Yoda does make reference to this. Yoda said, remember, at one point he says, maybe we misinterpreted the myth or whatever. He says the legend, or says something about that they may have misunderstood it.
He's not supposed to help us. He's supposed to help them.
He did, and he did bring balance to the Force.
Yes,
it's not the way they were expecting.
Yeah, they were really that naive that they thought, he's supposed to bring balance to the Force and he's going to join our side. Like, what? There's no Sith.
And that's if you actually look at it, 1, 2, and 3, the Jedi are in power. The light side of the Force is absolutely dominant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Anakin falls, and he restores balance by wiping out the Jedi. So then all of a sudden the dark side is in power. Then what happens in 4, 5, and 6? Vader turns on Palpatine, and, kills.
Balances the Force, basically.
And guess what? There's no Jedi, and there is no Sith anymore.
No, there is Jedi. There's Luke. But
he's not a Jedi. He is never a Jedi.
He was a Jedi.
He did not become a Jedi until in the novels.
He just trained but never actually became a Jedi?
There were no masters. He trained under Yoda, but there were no Jedi anymore.
Huh. Oh, that's right, because Yoda dies
Hence
anyway.
The whole title of Return of the Jedi is, here there are no Jedi.
I see. Okay, interesting.
So, there's no Sith and there is no Jedi. There was balance again because neither of these shitbags are there.
That's a really good point. I never actually thought about it from that perspective.
That's the prophecy.
Wow.
They're stupid.
So he did bring balance to the Force by basically eliminating it completely. Huh.
And basically resetting the counter to 0.
To 0, yeah.
So really, episode 6 could have just been like, that's it. There's balance. We're done.
Yeah. Well, until the next generation of Force users start cropping up, and some choose to go down one path and some down the other.
See, now why is it that, if you're a dark side user, you're automatically bad?
That's not true.
That's what. Well,
that's not true at all.
They always perceive it that way. In these.
See, that's part of the failing of that's part of the failings of the Jedi in and of themselves. So, everyone, all the Jedi see that anytime you use the dark side, you're corrupt. You corrupt your flesh, and all of this stuff happens. That's not guaranteed to happen.
Because I remember, like, in the Knights of the Old Republic games, you could use Sith or dark side powers as a Jedi, but you didn't have access to, like, the heavier one, like the Force Choke and like Force Crush or whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah.
What was the heavy one for
Force
that?
Crush?
Force Crush?
If you went Jedi Consular, you started off as Consular and went dark side to Sith Lord.
Yeah.
You got Force Crush, which was the strongest Force power in the game.
Yeah. But I remember, because that's actually, there's a little digression here. When I did Knights of the Old Republic, I went pure Force build, because let's be honest, the Force powers are like the coolest thing that Star Wars has ever done.
Lightsabers too.
The lightsabers are neat, but honestly, I'm a sucker for like wizardry and slinging shit, and it always felt like the light side got shafted on like spells aren't the right word.
And that's where like the failings of the Jedi come in. Like, so they're not allowed to have physical attachments, which they're basically monks. They give up their worldly goods to do what's right and what's better for the Republic and humanity, and well,
it's not about me, it's about us.
Yeah, it's about the collective good. But that's also where their teachings fail, because they become apathetic to the plights of other people and don't act. It's, we got to stop and think about this. How are we going to do things? Should we talk about it? Should we do this? Should we do that? And then that's where you get Jedis like Mace Windu and Qui-Gon Jinn, who are like, fuck this bullshit. We're going to go do stuff. And even like Revan, because the Jedi refused to act, he went to Mandalore and fought so that they wouldn't wipe out entire civilizations by spreading war.
Yeah.
That was actually, you took the two that I was going to say too, is that it's never, there were, so yes, there's the light side and the dark side, but then there's also what they call the gray, where it's like you're in between, where it's, you kind of walk that fine line, but you still ally yourself with one side or the other. But Qui-Gon Jinn was actually considered a gray Jedi because
he's the only canon gray Jedi too.
Yes. Because he was he was on the light side, he was on the good side, but he would constantly battle and argue with the way that the Jedi did things. He didn't always agree with it, so he was kind of what they considered reckless.
Yeah.
And so that's why he was considered gray. And in the case of Mace Windu, even though he wasn't a gray Jedi, they said that he fought with
Vapid.
The
pod or something.
And I want to say
the lightsaber style he uses draws upon the dark side to fight.
And I want to say that was actually made canon in the Episode 3 novelization, maybe.
In the Clone Wars series.
And in the Clone Wars series, is that basically he gives in to the dark side, but he goes to a point to where he's not able to be taken over by the dark side, but he embraces it so that it gives him more power and more strength.
He channels it back into the enemy themselves, basically using their darkness to defeat them.
Yep. Like a judo move.
Well, and then I forgot, there is one other Jedi who actually does sort of use dark side type powers, Plo Koon.
Oh, does he really?
He has a form of Force Lightning called Force Judgment.
Oh.
Which is literally a light side version of Force Lightning, but instead of being the blue, is green.
Oh, nice.
Huh.
So, like, he was another one that should technically have fallen under Gray Jedi, because he was learning about other ways of the Force that the Jedi would be considered heresy.
Honestly, that's kind of where I feel like 7, 8, 9 should have gone. Is instead of Jedi and Sith, there should have been a third faction that rose through the ranks to wipe out the other two.
To be honest, that's where
I think Snoke was supposed to come in, where it's like Snoke, they never, like, he wasn't Sith.
Yeah.
He was a dark side practitioner, but he wasn't full on, like...
I think he was supposed to be the kickoff point for either Kylo or Rey going the middle path. Realizing that neither path works anymore.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, Yoda sort of does. Like, is it... I think it's in 8.
8, he's in 8, yeah.
Where Yoda's basically like, the old teachings don't work. Burn that shit to the ground.
Yeah.
And he literally uses the Force to call a lightning bolt down on an old Jedi Temple tree and burn it down before Luke can get stuff out of there, even though the books weren't in there.
And that is one of the first things, well, not one of the first things, but one of the many things that Rian Johnson does that no character has ever done in the stories before.
Rained lightning from the heavens.
Is that a Force ghost can actually still use the Force on living things.
Except for the thing is, it was in the old extended universe stuff. Force ghosts are literally walking embodiments of the Force.
Yeah, but...
So why would they not be able to interact? They're able to talk to things. He's able to teach them. Like, why if you're a living
This seems stupid.
Because teaching and talking to somebody and providing them with, like...
But you're already manipulating the Force at such an extreme level to keep yourself alive. You literally give up your physical form to become one with the Force, which means why would you not be able to manipulate the Force still?
I can see where both of you are coming from. Paul, I can see it. I feel like a Force ghost should act more like a muse and like an influence.
Yes, it's an influence. You're not supposed to be able to, like... Because then why won't you just use your Force lightning on the Sith and just be like, all right, it's done.
Yeah, no one can hurt me. I'm a fucking Force ghost.
You can't kill me.
I'm a fucking demon.
Yeah. But also, that's wherein the Jedi teachings were failing. Yoda does not want to interfere because his time is past.
But he did interfere.
But he didn't interfere. You got to remember, the books were not burned.
I know, the books, yes. The books were stolen.
He was literally trying to teach Luke a lesson, his final lesson. And Luke was just kind of like, I'm an idiot. I get it now, but I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
No, I kind of agree with Paul. I don't think a Force ghost should be able to manipulate a human or a living thing.
A living thing.
Or
but that's
ethereal...
The Sith had a form of it where basically they haunted objects and shit and would literally possess bodies to do stuff.
Yeah, I suppose.
It's not out of it's part of the old canon that got thrown out. Force ghosts were especially the Sith ones were a major problem. There were entire planets that were forbidden because Sith ghosts corrupted everything.
I suppose you are correct, because episode 5 had that one part where they are on Dagobah and they're in the darkest.
And Dagobah is literally a dark side planet.
Yes.
That's why Yoda hated
literally, he's in that forest where he goes
into the cave.
He sees the evil entity. That's Darth Vader, which then draws a lightsaber, which then Luke actually...
cuts the head off or whatever.
Well, but Luke actually, I think they cross, like, their lightsabers touch, meaning that it's actually...
a physical thing.
It's interacting with the physical. And then, yes, he cuts the head off, and then it reveals his head in there.
Inside Vader's helmet, yeah. Which is also a subtle nod to, wink, wink, it's your dad.
Yeah.
Well, but it's also
genetically you.
But it's also too is that if you continue down this road, this is what's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so, but
fucking Yoder.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of shit that, like, especially even like that. Even now, it's still considered canon. You have groups like the Night Sisters that use magic or sorcery. They literally resurrect the dead as zombies in Star Wars. So, like, a Force ghost doing something is not out of the ordinary when you have fucking literal zombies walking around.
That's true.
The Force can, like, there are other Force users who manipulate plant life. So, like, they make, like, poison ivy, but for the fucking Force.
That's weird.
So, like, the Force can, because the Force connects all living things, it binds everything together. Well, if the Force is literally one with everything, why would something that is the Force not be able to manipulate everything?
I suppose that's true.
And then that's where, like, the father, the mother, the brother, and the sister all come in, where, like, they're ridiculous extremes of what everything of the Force can be.
So then also in episode 8, what are your thoughts on the whole Holdo maneuver?
The what?
The Holdo maneuver?
The light drive?
Where she uses light speed, weaponizes light speed? Why haven't they ever done it before?
Well, and that's my question. Like, that was my issue. There was actually...
She becomes Sonic the Hedgehog?
No, she basically... She has everyone get off the ship, and then she jumps to light speed right in front of a Star Destroyer,
Through a Star Destroyer, which basically destroys
both of them.
It obliterates both of them.
It makes sense. Hyperdrive is not it's not like Star Trek where you go into a subspace and move. That's why you have to have the deflectors. It's why you have to have a certain path. It's why you... But yes,
as the Star Destroyers are destroying their entire fleets,
why don't they just?
Why wouldn't they just use an X-wing to fucking go through hyperspeed?
Again, this is where
Johnson got it wrong.
Well, not too. But if you read the old extended universe, there was a weapon that literally did this. There was a satellite around, I think it was around a star.
But it's not canon anymore!
That used hyperdrive weapons to hit any planet anywhere in the galaxy to basically just blow it the fuck up. And so, like, the problem is they never showed it in any of the movies, so vast majority of the fan base that don't read the books don't know about this stuff. And then with Disney saying, well, this is not part of the lore anymore, but then saying we like this and that and pulling it.
Yeah.
Like they brought in Grand Admiral Thrawn that was only part of the books.
Yeah.
He exists in the Star Wars canon now.
Well, he does because of Rebels.
Oh yeah, Rebels.
Yeah,
it
Rebels.
was one of the two cartoons.
It's Rebels. And it's funny because he actually,
Does he show up in 9?
he doesn't, quote unquote, he doesn't. But the character that
There a blue skin guy that shows up.
there is not a blue skin guy.
Well,
there is like a moth type character in there, and it's very clear that he is Grand Admiral Thrawn, but he's not called that because they said that there's way too much lore around the character, and they didn't have enough time to introduce him as Grand Admiral Thrawn. So they basically just had a no-name guy, but you could tell that his inspiration for the character was Grand Admiral Thrawn.
So I wonder if he was supposed to have a bigger story arc.
And
and then that's why they kind of shoved it into Rebels too.
Yeah, he could have potentially, but
see that's where also too I think Star Wars loses a lot of people is. It's one of those things where, okay, yeah, it's all right if you just watch the movies, but you're missing out on so much story and lore that's only in the novels, the comics, the games, the cartoon series that most people are just going to dismiss out of hand because they're cartoon series.
Yeah.
Like, Rebels is a pretty dark show when you actually look at it and get past that bright, like, colorful palette they use. It's a dark story. It's about a bunch of people that are going around, like, being like what Han Solo originally was, like a smuggler and thieves and stuff, just fucking with the Empire to try to make things work.
Yeah.
But the funny thing, though, is that, okay, so I got very kind of sidetracked here, but episode 8 came out. It was The Last Jedi. That was the second piece of the puzzle by Rian Johnson. His story came out. The movie still grossed like $1.3 billion. It grossed a lot, but it's probably because of the fact that it was a Star Wars movie, and it was in the middle. It was basically the tentpole of episode 7, 8, and 9. Well, then 5 months later, Solo, a Star Wars story, came out, which, in my opinion, it wasn't a bad movie. It was a lot of fan service, but it wasn't a bad movie.
It's a space western that would have been better as something that wasn't Star Wars.
Spaceballs!
It didn't, yes. And it basically explained the story of Han Solo. It gave him a backstory, which we didn't need. We didn't ask for, we didn't want. That was one of the reasons why we loved him, is because we know that he's a scoundrel. We don't want to know what the hell he's doing.
Han Solo, to me, like, I never understood people's allure to Han Solo. Like, his character is such a douche. Like, why would anybody even like him as a character?
Harrison Ford.
Well, it's not just that. It's the whole trope of a scoundrel with a heart of gold.
Yeah.
Well,
It's your thief character that, when the chips are down, is the one you can count on more than anyone else because he's the one that will make things happen.
I guess.
And if you look at 4, 5, and 6, he is sort of the linchpin of everything getting done.
Yeah.
He is.
Actually, I remember seeing a thing that Harrison Ford was a carpenter on set, and they liked the way he looked, and that's how he got that role.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was not even an actor.
He wasn't an actor when he got originally hired. He was building sets. Now, there's one version of the story where they're talking about casting Han Solo and can't figure something out.
Somebody else was supposed to be Han Solo, and I don't remember who it was.
Well, and the one story that
no, it wasn't Walken.
Reeve, I think, was considered at one point.
Yeah, somebody was.
But like, I don't know how much of the story is true, but like, yeah, he was building stuff on set and supposedly fell off one of the sets in front of Lucas and someone else, and they were like, him, that's our guy, that's our Han Solo. But it's one of those things where it's like, did that really happen, or did they just kind of walk on set and say, talk to him and be like, oh, yeah, I like your look. Could you act? Can you do this? And that seems more likely than him falling off the set in front of him.
Because as far as the carpenter goes, he actually had some pretty good acting chops. Like,
I don't think
he's a very good actor.
I think he attempted trying to act at several points, but was a carpenter by trade.
Get off my plane!
It's funny. No, and actually another fun fact too is that in episode 5, so Harrison Ford, I don't think he even wanted to come back for episode 5, but he definitely didn't want to come back for episode 6 when it was established that there was going to be a 5 and a 6. And so what ended up happening was when he...
Well, it's just like Alec Guinness.
Yeah.
Who played Obi-Wan in the original trilogy. He was on set. He thought the thing was an entire joke. He basically did the bare minimum to get him through. That's why Obi-Wan seems so weird in certain spots, because he thought it was going to flop. He thought it was the stupidest thing he had ever done with his career.
He hated Star Wars, actually.
Yeah.
Because that was since that point.
He's
that's
a Shakespearean stage actor. This is lowering myself.
Well, and that's what he was known for. He had actually won an Academy Award for, I believe, the movie Gandhi or something like that, there was another one, Bridge on the River Kwai. He was on, which was a very well-known, well-beloved movie in the 50s.
I know about.
But yeah, you've probably heard of it at least. But nobody cared about any of the other stuff he did. They just knew him for Star Wars, and he resented that to the day he died.
Kind of reminds me of Alan Rickman. He's a Shakespearean actor, or was anyway, and then you look at some of the roles he's done, and he works so well.
Yeah,
he's another one where he's just like, oh yeah, he loves everything.
Like, the funny thing
that's
is,
a good
with Rickman, you know him from one of three things:
Dogma,
Dogma,
for me.
Die Hard,
Harry Potter,
or Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So, but Harrison Ford did not want to come back for 6, so they didn't know what they could do, and so they needed to. They said, we can't recast him, and we don't want to just drop the character completely. So in episode 5, that's why he was frozen in carbonite, because they determined, well, if we can't get him back for episode 6, then he's in carbonite for the remainder of episode 6.
Done.
But if we could get him back, then we'll find some way to actually pull him out of the carbonite, and then he can finish the role again.
See, he's one of those actors where, like, he had such a love-hate relationship with Star Wars.
He did.
Like, he hated it because he thought it was kind of like schlocky and stuff like that, and he thought there was better roles he could be doing his time with. But at the same time, outside of that and Indiana Jones, he never would have made it really without Indiana Jones or Star Wars.
Those are two so iconic roles and characters. But outside of those two things, you can't. I mean, name 3 things that Harrison Ford's been in. Not including Star Wars or Indiana Jones. Nothing.
What's the one where he's on the plane? Get off my plane.
Air Force One.
Air Force One.
There was Air Force One. There was the one where his wife was killed. He was framed for the murder of his wife. The Fugitive, I think.
The Fugitive, yeah.
And then.
Yeah, because he was also Jack Ryan too, I guess, in like Hunt for Red October.
Yeah.
The Fugitive, yeah.
Well, no, Hunt for Red October.
That was Sean Connery, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, Hunt for Red October. Jack Ryan was Baldwin.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, didn't Carrie Fisher say that too? Like, all anyone ever remembers her for was her being in the bikini.
Oh,
well, but she's also really indifferent. She didn't give a shit.
No,
She just hated wearing the thing because it didn't stick to her skin. So literally,
just nips.
The guy that was playing Jabba and then Anthony Daniels in C-3PO, when she's laying there in the bikini behind her, like she's laying there and they're standing behind her, they could see down everything.
Yeah. Which is funny.
Yeah. So, but anyways, episode 8 comes out, or no, we were talking about Solo. So then Solo comes out, and people think that the movie bombed at the box office because the movie was bad and that nobody asked for this movie. It had a very tumultuous production where basically the 2 guys who were actually tapped to direct the movie were fired, I think, 80 to 90% of the way through the movie, just because none of the actors could stand them.
Wow.
They had a very set way of doing things.
Sounds like a very storied history with this movie.
Well, it was, and so the movie actually costed, I believe it was somewhere in the ballpark of it was like $300 to $400 million. And the movie ended up only grossing like $180 million or like $200 million, whatever it was. It ended up being something where it was the first time in history a Star Wars movie lost money, and a significant amount of money.
Yeah, that is. People
think that it's because of Solo. It's not. It is literally because of The Last Jedi, and because the even Episode 9 is not, it never really recovered. And its box office, even though I think that one will make more money than it costed, it's not going
Star
to
Wars, Episode 9's already made a lot of money. It's already
made a lot of
budget.
That was not even a question.
It's dominated the box office since it came out.
That was not even a question. But but I don't think that it's going to do as well as they were hoping that it was going to do.
Oh, probably not.
But after the fiasco that was episode 8 with Rian Johnson, Colin Trevorrow, without ever even having a chance to direct his movie, was fired.
Oh, the poor guy.
From episode 9.
Oh.
And they said
JJ
we need to figure out a way to do this. Bring JJ back. Let him just finish up what he had in store for his trilogy.
Sounds terrible.
And we're just going to let him take this thing home. Colin Trevorrow, sorry, but it's in too tumultuous of a position right now. We can't have you doing this. We need somebody who's established, who's better established. JJ has already done episode 7.
So
and
JJ sucks.
well, JJ's got his own
Who's
issues.
the guy that had to call that dude and be like, by the way, you're fired from 9?
Oh,
You know what I mean?
oh,
Like,
that would be Kathleen Kennedy.
Jesus Christ.
She's head of Lucas.
Like, how do
she's
you,
she's
how
head
do
of
you make
Lucasfilm.
that call? You know what I mean? Like, you have
She
to have
doesn't give a shit.
You have
That's
to have
part
a
of the
set of
problem.
balls on you to
No.
just...
But yeah, the guy,
Wow.
I feel
To be
so
honest-
bad for Colin Trevorrow.
To be honest, what I would have done is I would have been like, okay, so you're not going to do episode 9. We'll give you your own Star Wars movie anywhere in the timeline you like outside of, just be like, do this era, do this era, do this era, make your own movie.
Fuck
Oh.
that. Why don't they just do what they did with the Hulk and just say, guess what? Episode 8, that wasn't the real one.
Yeah.
Here's the real one.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Or like
There was
Spider-Man or something. Just be like, yep, here's
Well,
the real episode 8.
So the funny thing is that, episode 8 was so hated. And after episode 8 came out, well, guess what? Kathleen Kennedy loved episode 8. And
Of
she
course
said,
she did.
Ryan Johnson, I want you to do your own trilogy.
Yeah.
It's not set in the Skywalker.
He quit, didn't he? Or got fired from it already, didn't he?
Well, see, here's the thing: is that everybody thinks that he's been fired from it.
I think he
except
quit.
except Ryan Johnson doesn't know that he's been fired from it. And so people would be asking him like, "Oh, is your trilogy still on?" And he tweeted once, he was like, "Yup," and then there was the fist bump like emoticon. It's like bullshit, dude. Your trilogy's not gonna happen. But
Wow, that's funny.
people hated episode 8 so much that there was a petition going around to
Have them ignore
ignore it and redo it in the Star Wars trilogy.
That's
and
funny.
it literally had over 2 million signatures on it. Over 2 million.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So Ryan Johnson single-handedly destroyed the Star Wars brand and the Star Wars name.
That's sad.
And Favreau's building it back up,
And
though.
Favreau is doing he's doing a great
They flat
job.
out just need to give him control of Star Wars. Look what he did for Marvel.
Do you know what's funny?
He did Iron Man and stuff like that. He started the MCU.
But
that's a topic I want to talk about, actually.
But do you know what is crazy is that they did not expect The Mandalorian to do as well as it
or
did.
the child. Just 'cause he's so fucking adorable.
Well, and that's the crazy thing too is that the series has been so damn good from start to finish. Although I haven't seen the last episode, but from start to finish, it has been absolutely phenomenal. They had no marketing. They had nothing licensed for that show. They didn't have anything for like this child that you see.
The Baby Yoda.
The
Baby
Yoda meme that's literally overtaking my
Nothing.
face.
There was no merchandising for him whatsoever. So now the soonest that they can get out all of this
Summer this
Baby
year.
Yoda stuff is like literally March and April of 2020. It's like, did you really not think that this was going to be a big thing?
And that's the thing is they expected it to just be some side story to sell Disney Plus. That was basically the entire marketing for it. It's only available here at Disney Plus.
Well, they sold Star Wars.
And it did. And the thing is, Favreau knows what he's doing when it comes to making entertainment. My only 2 complaints with The Mandalorian are, episodes are not long enough. The season was not long enough.
No, yeah, that's true.
They're like half-hour episodes.
They
and there's
are.
only 8 of them.
Yep.
That's
So
sad.
basically, the episode gets going, and you're hooked, and all of a sudden it
done.
ends, and you're like, I gotta wait a week?
Yeah.
Fuck you guys.
I literally, there was one episode, and I'm watching it, and it's I'm like it sounds like it's going to end, and I'm just like, no, they're gonna end it here, no.
That seems like such a short, like a oversight to only make a half-hour episode.
And it's one of those things where they basically, from the way I understand it and the way it's been getting reported about it, they basically gave him free reign. And he chose to do shorter episodes rather than drag them on because he thought having the bite-sized, quick little chunks is better than overstaying a welcome and drawing things on for too long.
I actually like the half-hour episode format.
But I feel like in something like Star Wars or whatever, doing a bite-sized thing is not enough time to get across the point you're trying to make in a particular episode.
He was also the one thing is what he did have that limited budget, so basically he could have had the 8 half-hour episodes. Or like 5-hour or 2 episodes.
Okay.
So like he basically had to make certain decisions and bend in certain ways to do what he wanted to do with his story.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he didn't back down on like what he wanted to tell. He stuck up for wanting the cast that he wanted. So like he knows what he's doing. He knew what would work. And yeah, it blew up. I mean, from having Pedro Pascal as the Mandalorian, amazing casting. Although from what I hear, there have been episodes where he's literally not the one on set in the suit.
Oh, really?
Because he had some conflict with scheduling, so one of his stunt doubles would wear the suit and he would just do the voiceover.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So I mean, which makes sense because you never see his face until one particular episode.
They made jokes about that because Pedro Pascal was the guy who was
he didn't watch Game of Thrones.
Oh, he was over in and he gets his head crushed by a guy named the Mountain, and so they basically said that he learned from his lesson from the Mountain, so which is why he never takes the helmet off.
Funny.
Like he doesn't want it to happen again.
And then they did not expect. I don't even think Favreau expected the child to catch on the way it did.
Oh, come on. God. Really?
No, he knew it was going to be cute, and he kind of figured, like, I'm sure at some level he had hoped it would become a Star Wars mascot, but I don't think anyone expected it to catch on exactly the way it did.
Oh my God, the second that I saw that thing pull the cover over its head, it's just like, you got me, take my money now, please.
Like they've had even the cast when they brought in like famous people to do it, they didn't do it in shitty ways. Like what is it? Is it Richard Iowati? I think was IG-11.
Really?
Oh, okay. I don't know who that is.
He was on was it IT? Something?
The IT crowd.
IT crowd.
I don't know what that is.
He's a British actor.
He's an actor comedian from England. Then, the comedian Bill Burr, he was in an episode.
Oh yes, he was. He was in I think 1 or 2 episodes. No, it was just one.
And one of the best lines, it's just a throwaway thing, and he said he's talking about being like a sharpshooter or something like that, and he's like, well, yeah, I don't have to worry about me if you could hit me or something like that, and he was like, I was a sharpshooter, not a stormtrooper.
That's funny.
So there's stuff like that in there, and then like the ending of the last episode.
Don't spoil anything for me.
Spoil it, because he's gonna spoil episode 9 for you.
Is such a thing that if you know the lore of the Mandalorians, is fucking amazing.
Okay. All right, settle one thing for me. Just quick side note. Mandalorian, is that a race or is that just a person? Because aren't Mandalorians just from Mandalore?
No. This is where it gets.
I thought Mandalore was a planet.
No. Well, yes, Mandalore became the name of a planet, but Mandalore, the Mandalorian Creed was started by a species.
Because I remember in Knights of the Old Republic, you got a character who was just called Mandalorian.
Well, no, Mandalore is the leader of the Mandalorians. He was the Mandalore.
They called it Mandalore or something like that.
Mandalorian is the overall, is all the people under the umbrella. Mm-hmm. Mandalore is the single ruler of the Mandalorians. Mandalore is also the planet, which got renamed.
My brain!
Yeah.
But, no, Mandalorian, it was started by one species that basically... I don't remember if they started taking other people in, or they went extinct and other people stole their culture. That's basically like what happened with the Sith.
Okay.
So it started off as one thing, started one way, and then they kind of got built up, and they got the reputation of being the bounty hunters and the assassins and stuff like that, and they built up this whole guild of being badass warriors.
What was like Boba Fett?
Not a Mandalorian.
No, but what was he considered?
Nothing. He was a piece of shit.
I never understood the point of Boba Fett, to
Pretty
be
sure
honest.
Boba Fett was Mandalorian, but
neither Django nor Boba are Mandalorians.
So what are
they wear
they just-
Mandalorian armor, but they are
they're
not
not Mandalorians.
Mandalorians
Gotcha.
because they do not follow the Mandalorian creed.
Hence why they die like bitches.
Yeah. Well, Django doesn't die like a bitch. He gets his head cut off by Mace Windu.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, Boba I never understood. Because wasn't
He
he
looked
not
cool.
even part of it?
He looked cool.
And they
you
added
first saw
him
him in
after
the
the
Christmas.
fact?
No,
They didn't add him after the fact.
he was in the background of one shot,
He was.
and then he was introduced in the Christmas special.
Yes.
Right.
Then he was in the background for like
was-
one shot,
he was-
and then he was in episode 6.
He was in episode 5.
Sorry.
Yeah, he was in episode 5, and he was in episode 6 too. He
Yeah.
just died in episode 6.
I
but
thought he really didn't even play like a
Nope.
part in anything.
they added him in one shot to episode 4 during the special edition.
The one of 9 re-releases they made for the fucking
Yeah,
trilogy?
yeah, and that one was the first one, the first re-release.
Jesus Christ.
I know.
Alright, cool. Well, that was one thing that confused me was the whole Mandalore thing. I never
Yeah,
understood what the fuck they were talking about.
It's basically just a warrior creed where you follow certain rules. If you don't follow these rules, you're basically dishonored and no longer part of the clan. And then within like the Mandalorian umbrella, there are like sub-clans that basically, hey, we do contracts together, and if you fuck with one of our members, you fuck with all of us. And they will fight each other, but when the time comes, if you are a Mandalorian, all other Mandalorians have your back, no matter
Okay.
what.
Interesting.
Even if it's someone you have sworn a blood debt against, that you're going to kill them, and no matter what, you'll kill their offspring. If it comes down to a war where it's a bunch of people versus Mandalorians, you and the other guy are fighting shoulder to shoulder to kill these other guys, then turning around and beating the shit out of each other.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I know episode 9 recently came out,
It did.
right? We're going to spoil this for you, buddy.
No, it's fine. I already read the script. But
I
still
heard
haven't
it.
seen
It's pretty divisive of whether people like it or not. Some people absolutely love it. Some people absolutely hate it. Why? I don't know anything about this, so I want to know your opinion on it, Paul.
So there are.
Spoilers for anybody. I'm planning on putting a spoiler tag on the
His entire episode
anyway.
has technically been spoilers.
Yeah,
I think
so-
there will be. I think because I'm gonna try
You're
to.
spoiled Mandalorian.
I'm gonna try to
I'm
stop.
gonna say one word and it'll spoil. Well, I don't know how much he knows, so.
No, don't please.
Spoil it for him because he's going to spoil 9 for you.
No, it's with episode 9. My biggest gripe with episode 9, I thought it was. It was okay. It wasn't bad, but by no means was it good. But the problem was, there was too much to digest in that movie.
That's what
There
I
was. It was so damn just.
It was so dense.
It was so dense and so tightly packed.
He had to put so much shit in there to recover.
Yeah,
that it just
it
made.
literally-
It should have been 2 movies.
So
It should have been two movies.
It was essentially Star Wars 8.5 and 9.
Yep.
Yes, it really
From what I
was.
heard, yeah.
So it was 8.5 in the fact that he's got to
Yeah.
fix all the bullshit from the other one and now do a whole nother
It really
movie.
was. And in fact, there was actually a couple call-outs, too, in the movie where they basically make reference to things that happened in episode 8, and they basically just kind of, like,
Denounce it.
shut them down, yeah.
Wow.
Like the whole Holdo maneuver. They make a comment in there, it's like, well, why don't we do the Holdo maneuver? And Poe quickly says, like, oh, that's a one-time in a million shot, like, meaning we're not going to do that again.
Yeah.
That's not always going to work. But basically, there's just so much in there where they're constantly throwing stuff at you. It's like it does not give your brain time to take things in. It doesn't allow for certain stories to kind of play out.
How long was it?
It was like 2.5 hours long.
Why didn't they
Yeah.
just do a big 3-hour one? Like, wasn't Endgame 3 hours?
Endgame was, yeah.
Yeah. Why didn't they just do
I
what
don't
they
know.
had to do to make the movie? I mean, can you imagine if
I
it
don't
was
know.
like the first 4-hour movie? Can you imagine
Yeah, I know.
having to dedicate a day?
No, this was the longest one.
Well, for Star Wars, yeah.
For
Yeah,
Star
yeah,
Wars.
but I was like, could you imagine if you had to like dedicate an entire like
I mean, I wouldn't-
afternoon to watch a movie?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't. What was it? Titanic was like 3.5 hours.
I thought it was only 3.
No, it was 3.5 hours.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Still not that 4 hours. See,
Nope.
he could have
Nope,
easily
still
just
not
been
that 4
like,
hours.
guess what?
Sorry, guys.
4 hours, baby.
We'll do an intermission so that you guys can go to the bathroom.
Or they could have just done like this is the part 1 of episode 9. Like an episode 9 part 1.
Yeah, no, I mean, they did that with Harry Potter,
Yeah.
where they did that Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2. But yes, I think it could have, it definitely would have benefited from having a having either a second part or just not having as much stuff in there. I'm trying to think what some of my other gripes were of that movie.
Holy fuck.
So basically the Empire or the Emperor comes back.
Palpatine?
Yeah, Palpatine
Sheev.
comes back. What?
Sheev.
Yes, Sheev Palpatine.
That's his real name.
But basically they introduce him in the opening crawl of the movie. Like the opening dialogue that starts off the movie. It's
Is he a Force ghost?
No, he's not a Force ghost. He's real.
Well, and see, and that's something. Again, they pulled from the extended universe.
Yes,
he did
Dark
not
Empire.
die in episode 6.
No.
In the old extended universe, he basically fell down, was nearly crippled, and spent years in hiding, cloning Luke and making new bodies for himself, and started body jumping.
Yeah, that was Dark
Jesus
Empire.
Christ.
Yeah, the comic.
Wow.
But basically in the
He's
opening,
badass in the comics.
but basically in the opening crawl, they say Emperor Palpatine's back, and it's like,
Oh!
Wait,
like-
seriously?
yeah,
There's not an establishing.
Like they just show it. I'm back, bitches.
they're literally in the opening.
Glasses.
In the
Yeah, like
opening,
the little glass.
in the
And the
opening
pixelated
crawl,
ones.
because obviously you knew that Palpatine was going to be
Oh
in the
god,
movie.
yeah, from his laugh.
From his laugh, yeah, it was
I figured they were
so I
either
don't
going
feel
to
like I'm spoiling anything.
I figured he was either going to show up as a ghost or an impression to
No, he's
Kylo,
real.
or he was going to be a physical thing that came
Yeah.
to Kylo and went, "Stop being a bitch."
Yeah, no, he's real. But it's like they
That's so
literally
funny.
say it in the opening crawl that he's back. So it's like all of this stuff that's established. Like they literally just say, nope, you have to accept this because it's in the opening crawl, and now we're going into the movie.
Wow,
So
that
it's like
is
you
lame.
can't do that. You can't
No.
just bring back a character
Well,
like
I
this
was-
who has not been here in episode 7 or 8, and now all of a sudden we just have to accept the fact that it's like all the characters know that Emperor Palpatine's back and that they have to deal with him. It's like,
That
wait,
seems like
what?
such shitty storytelling.
It honestly is. It was not good.
Really
Wow.
That's bad.
It was extremely jarring. And it's just like, wait a minute. So you're not going to build up anything to this.
Hell, I'd have like had the opening scene been like, you know, you're having one of the rebels going into, well, they're not rebels at this point. They're the main Republic again, suppose, sorta. But like, I would have basically had some character go into some First Order or Empire-controlled old thing and establish Palpatine there. Have that person die or dying and get a message out about like his return or something.
Yeah, and you literally just came up with that, and that was probably a better idea than what they
Then
actually
just
did.
I'm gonna write his name in the opening crawl. And
I just imagine the first says Palpatine's back, bitches, as it scrolls up in that fading shot.
and then
It's got just been in quotations. I'm back, bitch.
and then they do like Spaceballs where it goes da da da. But we're really sorry about doing all this. And start going into exposition and make the crawl even longer.
That's so funny.
Oh, that's terrible.
Oh God! And that comment that Maz had in episode 7, that's a good story for another time. She never comes back to it.
Well, of course she doesn't.
Never comes back to it.
That's like I said. That's something that they're better off explaining in a comic or in a book.
So yeah, they do. There is an appearance from the Knights of Ren though.
Well, I was gonna ask because
so they are in there.
Are they bitches?
I wouldn't say so, but I feel like they definitely did underutilize them.
Granted, the comic book, The Rise of Kylo Ren, made them badass. So.
Yeah, I do like the first
When
issue
they
of
introduced
that.
Ren himself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there are tie-in comics right now, and they're basically doing a comic series that follows Ben Solo, like his rise as a Force user and then his fall to the dark side, and where he meets Ren, who's the master of the Knights of Ren.
Yeah.
And like it's an actual individual with the name of Ren, and versus just this is some name we took.
Well, I always thought that the Knights of Ren were named after Kylo Ren. But,
But see, that wouldn't make sense because in the episode 7, when they show the flashback Luke has of the slaughter on his academy, and it's raining, and the Knights of Ren are already established in full dark side getup.
Yeah.
So having them already have the name of Ren.
Oh, that's true.
So I always figured Kylo was the name he took. Ren
he
was the
took it to
surname.
Ren. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, but that's true. trying to think of other big things. God, it's already
That's
been
pretty bad. If you're already like
it's already been 2 weeks, and it's like I had all these different things that I was talking about with that movie, and now it's already like.
Well, I suppose too, like the amount of pressure that guy, like it was already pressure enough to do 7, 8, and 9, but now the pressure to recover this franchise and tie it all up and make a nice bow out of it, because this is the end of the Skywalker series, right?
Yeah.
Or the Skywalker saga, they call it.
Skywalker saga, yeah.
So like this is the finale. Like you're in charge of coming up with you're the one to tie all this up. Mm-hmm. Like that's got to be just. An insurmountable task.
To be honest, and another thing that must have been extremely hard for him to write is when Carrie Fisher passed.
Right.
How can you continue Leia's story properly?
So what they did with Leia
CGI,
was that
right?
no, that wasn't CGI. Well, not completely.
Did her daughter stand in and they do face over again?
No. What they did
That's what
was
they did in,
they had footage that they did not use that they had recorded for episode 7 and episode 8, and so they basically took her in those things, put it against a blue screen so that
so they altered the background,
so that they could edit the backgrounds to be whatever they needed to. So the lines that she speaks in episode 9 are her own. But it's basically they built the scenes around those around the dialogue that she had spoken.
Wow, that's a really good idea.
Apparently, well, here's the thing: is that apparently people do not like the fact that they had done that. But honestly, in the movie, I don't think anything really seemed like it was out of place. I don't think it was an issue that they built the scenes around that dialogue.
Well, and it's not like they're trying to capitalize on the fact that she's no longer there either. Really, it was one of those things. Well,
you would want to keep it as authentic as possible.
We had this stuff. We wanted to use it. We couldn't use it. She would have approved of it.
Yeah,
it's better than she's dead. By the way,
or
just see that in the opening crawl. Leia's dead. Palpatine's back. Fuck.
Or like going the bad way. It was in Rogue One where her daughter stood in and they CG'd her face to look like her.
Oh, yeah.
And it looked like shit.
Mm-hmm. It looked bad.
Like, the outfit, everything looked good. Her hair looked good. But the face just looked
weird.
Really fucking wonky.
It was jarring. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So it kind of adds in. So in episode 8, obviously Leia's got the force power because she does the Mary Poppins and flies in through the ship. You haven't seen episode 8. So basically, what happens is that her ship is involved in one of the Star Destroyers destroys their ship.
That happens to her a lot.
The window breaks open, and so basically some people get sucked out into the vacuum of space. Well, Admiral Akbar gets sucked out and gets this very nonchalant.
He's Akbar. It's fine.
I'm dead.
Yeah, it's basically he doesn't even get his moment. He's sucked out. That's it.
Oh.
And then oh god, what was I saying? Leia gets sucked out too, and you think, okay, she's gonna die in space, but then all of a sudden she apparently uses the Force to then fly herself back into the ship, and then puts herself back in the bed, restores the ship, that
to be honest,
so that she is not dead, but she's basically on death's door.
My entire thing with that scene is I don't think Leia consciously used the Force. I think it was just a oh shit reaction that the Force had and used.
It could have been,
because she's not awake during that scene.
No, but it the way that it was shot, the way that
it looked like shit.
It looked like she was Mary Poppins flying in through the window, and I'm just like
them having her
I wanted
use
a
the
spoonful
Force
of sugar.
Makes sense because they even talk about it in the original trilogy. There is the other.
Yeah,
they
she's
could have always trained her. I can feel her. They talk to each other through the fucking Force.
Yeah.
So her being just having a reactionary use of the Force, I was okay with. The way the scene was shot looks terrible.
Well, and in episode 9, there is shots where Rey does do more training, and this time it's with Leia.
No.
Leia actually uses a lightsaber in the movie while she's training.
Well, and that's the thing is there's enough gap between 6 and 7 that Luke, I guarantee, would have trained her at some point.
And that's the thing too is I appreciated it because of the fact that, yes, in the expanded universe, she did use a lightsaber. She was very well adept at using the Force and using a lightsaber and all that stuff.
She's no Cade, though.
But again, it was one of those things where I'm like, okay, enough time could have elapsed where it would have made sense for her to do this. But again, it was something else that I felt like they shoehorned in for fan service to say, like, well, Rey is training with her because nostalgia. And she's never done it before, but guess what? She's going to do it for this little shot right here. We've never established that she's used a lightsaber, but guess what? Emperor Palpatine's back, so just assume...
It can't be that hard!
Except that she's using a lightsaber.
Yeah.
Well,
Like, it just... a lot of it was just like, you just had to accept it, and I didn't like that.
Seemed like a lot of principles in it were just take this with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
It's like... okay, but logic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everything you've established throughout the other movies is right out the window.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, at the same time, does a story literally need to show you everything in front of your face?
No.
For you to understand it?
No.
Honestly, it does not.
And that's part of my problem is, unfortunately, far too many, and a very vocal, like, part of the fan base is, basically, they want everything spoon-fed to them or mashed right into their face saying, you're going to take this.
See, and that's the thing I
Versus I wouldn't mind just being like, oh, okay, so this sort of happened because of this, and infer stuff versus the, I'm being spoon-fed everything.
I could see if, like, the whole idea of her being trained in the Force and stuff was something in an offshoot thing. You know what I mean? Like, somehow they tied it back to where
Well, to be honest, they could have
or they
handled
mention it in passing.
They could have,
in
in Episode 7, literally just made some snarky line of her to one of her commanders or something about how Luke trained her at some point.
Yeah. Well, I've always been better at the lightsaber than you. Like, something like that.
And that would have been better, but then to just not have... Like, okay, so, yeah, there's literally nothing, but... Like I said, the gap between 6 and 7 is how many years?
Yeah.
It's like 50 or something like that.
Yeah, like, look at how old they are. If she literally did nothing during the entire time and Luke knows she's Force sensitive, he's an idiot.
That's why I feel like if they had made a passing remark like that, it would have been more believable. Well, I had a crappy teacher, At least it establishes the fact that, yes, she's been trained, then this wouldn't have seemed so out of place. But it seems to me that never actually happened. And you should, for... something like this, you should not have to infer. It should be mentioned somewhere that this happened, especially in such an established universe that this seems to be creating, where there are certain rules that need to be followed for such a thing.
Well, like I said, they established it in the original trilogy that she's Force sensitive too.
And, there is something else too that they infer that you have to accept, but I don't know. I could go either way on this one. You said you read the script, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whether or not it's the script that got shot or one of the early drafts, I don't know.
You know who Rey is, what her lineage is.
No, that was not in the version I read. Go ahead and say it.
Spoil it!
I know her and Ben.
Spoil it like milk, baby! Spoil it like milk, baby!
They're not related.
Good.
So
she's Anakin Reborn.
Rey is not Anakin Reborn.
Good.
She is not a Skywalker.
Good.
She is a Palpatine.
That doesn't surprise me.
So
ew, who's he banging?
So basically,
are there Sith women?
Again, that's what you have to establish is that off camera at some point, Shiv Palpatine.
There's also not necessarily. He doesn't necessarily have to have had a kid. Do you not remember the conversation between Sheev and Anakin about Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Plagueis?
When did this turn into Resident Evil?
Well, guess what?
That's the way did they do it? She's a Force conception, or did he?
No. She specifically had a father who denounced Palpatine, who, when they say that your parents were nobodies and they sold you for drinking money, they were nobodies because they wanted to be nobodies, because it was Palpatine's son who knew that Palpatine was the Emperor and didn't want to be associated with him, so he wanted to be a nobody. And it was Palpatine who ended up killing her parents and wanting to steal Rey so that he could train her, because he knew that she was powerful in the Force and he wanted to use that to weaponize her. It's not a Force baby.
They should have gone the Plagueis route. And
they should have. Because
they're like in the prequel trilogy.
So you can Jesus people?
Well, yeah, because that's the entire theory of how Anakin was born. Anakin was conceived by the Force.
He was.
That's lame.
He doesn't have a father.
It honestly
He's
wasn't.
baby Jesus.
It's honestly wasn't because because they referred to Darth Plagueis in Episode 3, and they said that he was so
the wise.
Yes, they said that he was so wise and so powerful that he could influence the midichlorians to create life. And Palpatine looks at Anakin.
The dude was functionally immortal.
Yeah.
Darth Sion from Knights of the Old Republic. Imagine that, but instead of just being able to hold his corpse, his body together, can literally just create a new one. It's already established lore in Star Wars.
Honestly,
so.
it's not as bad an idea
Just
as you
gets
think.
people pregnant. He's just going around spitting Force seed everywhere.
Kinda.
Why not?
That just seems,
hey, why not?
that
It'd be
seems
a good way to build up an army. Better
That
than
seems
clones.
dumb. Yeah, after 20 years.
Better than clones.
But even so.
When you're immortal, it doesn't matter how much time it
just
takes.
seems
So
so
honestly, so he
stupid.
created Anakin, who then became a Virgin of the Force, and then basically became the chosen one. But it's because basically he was meant to be the chosen one, so that it would actually help the dark side, basically. But that would have been a great way to introduce Rey as being a virgin. It would have made it cyclical. But the fact, and I just saw this too, because somebody had said something about, oh, well, it makes sense because Sheev had a wife when he was when he was a senator. It's like he did actually take a wife, so that it looked better for him as a senator that he had a family. And I'm like, wait a minute, episode 1, between episode 1 and episode 7, then you're talking even more. That would be like 70 years. So
there's no way.
To think that Rey didn't have at least one kid somewhere is
exactly. So I mean, he couldn't just have it
would have to be his granddaughter, great granddaughter.
Well, it's his granddaughter.
So,
but his son was like. So
to be honest, I have to go back and rewatch the prequel trilogy. I wouldn't be surprised if he has a kid in the prequel trilogy.
And that's probably what it ends up being.
He's probably a background character in the prequel trilogy.
He may be a background character.
That got cut out.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of stuff that got cut in those.
And so he has a kid, and this theory is that he had the kid in around the time of episode 1 when he was still a senator. But then he basically, I guess, I don't know, he denounced his wife or his son, whatever it was. Never made any reference to them whatsoever.
Well, they were pawns to him like everything else.
Which is fine. That's fine. You do that. But it's like, okay, so, and then they kind of corrected that whole, yes, your parents are nobodies, because then you find out, yes, they were nobodies because they intentionally wanted to be nobodies. They didn't want to be found. And then Palpatine found them, killed them, wanted to raise Rey, and this whole time you find out that he's been influencing everybody in order to get Rey to the dark side. And actually then he uses that as he basically tells Kylo that Palpatine has been the voices that he's been hearing, whether it has been Vader's voice, whether it's been Snoke, and you find out that there's these tubes of Snoke parts and stuff like that in a tube. So obviously Snoke was somebody that
was a puppet.
That was a puppet.
Well, and see, that was actually one of the original thoughts of what Snoke was going to be, was that he was a clone that was going to end up being Palpatine.
Yeah,
and
I would have accepted that. That's fine.
That wouldn't have been too bad, because then, like I said, that's pulling from the old stories where Palpatine did exactly that behind the scenes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so it's basically he's been the voice in Kylo Ren's head to try to then persuade Rey to turn to the dark side, so that then Palpatine could then have his way with Rey to train her and have her become the most powerful Sith ever.
Mm-hmm.
And
Revan's still better.
And so it's like I appreciated the story.
It sounds like there's the bones for a good story, but they screwed up.
Yeah, I don't think that there was any issues whatsoever with her being a Palpatine, but the fact that, again, now you're asking us to accept that Palpatine had a kid at some point who then had another kid, and now you're trying to get your grandchild
to be a Sith. Like,
So I can definitely
it's
see
just-
why it should have been split into 2 movies.
it's too much for us
Right.
to accept in too short a time. I could accept that if you did it in 2 movies, you basically reveal that she's a Palpatine.
Give a little bit of
and then
backstory, a flashback type thing.
You
and, yeah.
give that she's a Palpatine, and then boom, part 2 coming next year. It's like, okay, now my brain
That'd be a
can
good
just,
cliffhanger.
Now my brain can
Her
say,
revealed that she's a Palpatine.
oh my god, she's a
yeah.
Palpatine. How are they going to end this? And then I can take some time to just say, like, okay, this works
Well,
out.
and
It would have reinvigorated the
It
Star
would've.
Wars
It
love.
To be
really
honest,
would've.
I think their obsession with staying with trilogies is what hampered them.
well,
Technically, it still would be.
and what they're even
Well, no, but like instead of just being 7, 8, 9, do 7, 8, 9, 10,
I think
and actually fix
Well,
everything properly.
no,
they
they're
still
not
could
gonna
have
do
done a
that, though.
9 part 1 and 9 part 2.
They could have.
It still would have been technically a
Yeah.
trilogy.
Well, I suppose
of
Avengers
sorts.
technically did that originally.
Yeah.
And
Avengers, it was Avengers Infinity War Part 1 and 2.
Well, and-
before it got turned into 2
and what they
separate
were saying
movies.
too is that it's like they're so stupid, because why in your opening crawl
Yeah.
would you even say
Yeah.
that Palpatine is back? Because that's like
Like I said, that
That's like
scene I
a-
thought up of would have been a perfect way to handle it.
a halfway through the movie, Palpatine comes back, and it's like your mind's blown at that point. Like you knew he was going to come in because you heard the laughing, the
And Ian McDermott was
cackling.
seen unseen.
But now
on
that
set
they
and-
show it in the opening crawl, it takes the punch away.
It does.
That would
it
be
literally
like
has no punch whatsoever.
that'd be like in the first, like in the opening crawl of a movie, like a horror movie. They tell you who the bad guy is.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the brother.
And so it's like, and so
Okay.
then the rest of the movie, you're finding out it's like,
And then it's
it's not the brother, it's not the brother, it's not the brother.
Nobody knows
it's like,
who the bad guy
who is it?
Oh, it's the brother. Yeah,
Oh.
we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just. It seems so. It almost
So-
feels like, and that's, again, it's maybe because now I know it. But then I always hate the device where it's like, oh, he's manipulating all these things throughout all these movies to make a specific end thing happen.
Well, and that's
And that
literally
always-
what it is.
And that always drives me nuts because
I-
then it.
I
Then
don't-
it gives me like the impression of nobody really did, or nobody's doing
See,
things
but
on
I
their
don't
own
mind that
terms.
because Palpatine has always been that kind of character where he is manipulating things from the very get-go. Even from episode 1 through 3, through 4, 5, and 6, he was trying to manipulate Luke and joining the dark side at the expense of Vader at that point, actually. And now he's manipulating through 7, 8, 9. That's fine. I can agree with
suppose
that.
so.
But it's
It's also
just,
the Sith ways manipulating everything.
Exactly.
So.
But one thing is, okay, so I feel like there wasn't anything as... In episode 8, I absolutely could not stand the Canto Bite scene. Because you could literally have removed all of that from the movie, and it would have been the same movie whatsoever.
That's the
That's like the casino.
Oh yeah, the entire subplot with Finn and Rose could be cut out of that
Gone.
movie, and it would literally affect nothing.
That's sad.
Nothing.
When you can cut like a third of your movie out and it doesn't affect your movie,
That
you
means
have
it
a
shouldn't
bad
be.
movie.
Yeah, it shouldn't be in there.
Like I said, there's certain elements were good.
Yeah.
It was such a like sloppy written thing.
It was.
And,
It was.
Feels like this last trilogy is worse than the fucking prequels.
yeah.
Well, that's what people are saying too. Is that it almost makes the prequel trilogies
Look like gold.
look a lot
to be
better
honest-
than what people used
To
to
be
think
honest,
about them.
to make the prequel trilogy better, there's only 2 things that need to happen. 1, remove Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, well,
His part can be filled by anything. He should have been a one and done character like he was supposed to be. 2,
I like the theories.
oh, Darth Jar Jar and shit like that. Yeah. But and then the other thing is just clean up a bunch of the dialogue, and the movies would have been good. Mm-hmm. But that's the problem is Lucas wrote all the dialogue. He had no one to check him
Nope.
and be like, "This sounds like shit."
Nobody to argue
Redo
with
it.
them. Yep.
You never know. They might. Look how many times they re-released 4, 5, and 6.
That
with
is funny.
Different dialogue with more
Well,
with changed
6
graphics.
episode
and things
4
like that.
just got another edit.
Oh, did it really?
Are you kidding? I wouldn't be surprised if they just redid those movies. 4,
Well,
5,
no,
and 6.
I don't think they'll redo
They'll
them.
they'll never redo them.
You never know.
But well, maybe not for another 20, 30 years.
You never. I mean,
We'll be dead.
that would be the hardest part for me is watching 1, 2, and 3. Then you go back to the 70s movies of like 4, 5, and 6, and then now you're doing 7, 8, 9. And there's such a disparity in the way cinematography has evolved
To be
over
honest-
the past 50 years.
To be honest, the only way I'd want to see it redone is I would like to see some animation studio come in and do like animated overarching. This is original, and make it like an animated series instead of doing another live action adaptation of it. It would allow them to do a lot more with the Force and stuff like that they wanted to do, but looked like shit.
Yeah.
Which would have been cool.
Because that would be the hardest part for me to watch. Like, if I wanted to watch 1 through 9. Like, it would be very strange and jarring to me to see these, like, disparities between, like, the lore and things like that.
There is a way of watching the original, like, all the movies in a weird order.
Yeah,
so
I heard there's a weird
order.
order.
You start with, like, 4.
I don't buy that whole order thing.
No.
No. They basically say, like, because you can watch the movie, like, you don't even have to watch episode 2.
Don't have to watch episode 1.
Yeah, well.
You only need parts of episode 2 and then episode 3.
Yeah.
And you basically, because there's dialogue, they talk about some stuff that happens, you basically intersperse the scenes from 2, then continue on with the original trilogy, and then when they start talking about the fall of Anakin, you do episode 3 stuff, and then continue on with the rest of 6, I think it is.
See, to me, call it a guilty pleasure, but even from the beginning, I liked episodes 1, 2, and 3. I never had a problem with them.
I
think they could have been a lot better, but I don't think by any means were they felt like Star Wars movies.
Yes. My only complaint's Jar Jar and the dialogue.
Yeah, Jar Jar definitely, like...
And the last scene with Vader in episode 3 was just garbage.
Well, the whole Frankenstein.
Yeah, it looked terrible.
The Frankenstein move and then the no.
Yeah, it looked bad.
Yeah.
And like Jar Jar, if they hadn't made him such a slapstick character, might not have been so bad. But they, like, right when you meet him, they establish him as the bumbling idiot of the tribe.
He's a huckster.
Well, and it's like...
I'm goofy.
And it's like, yeah, we don't need that in this movie. You can do a comedy without it being annoying. Look like when they tap that one type of droid on the nose and it shuts.
Oh, the pit droid, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that was funny. It was just a little haha, like, sight gag. You don't need an idiot doing, like, slapstick in the background, what's the black and white movie star? Chaplin.
Oh, yeah. Travis Chaplin.
You don't need him in that movie to do this sort of shit.
Right.
Yeah.
So what is, like, what's the end of this? Like, where does this end?
Everyone's
9.
dead.
With 9?
Like, what's just the ending of this saga?
Actually, before we do that, they teased a bunch of the stuff with Rey, with the red lightsaber and stuff. Is that just a vision again? That's what I figured. Okay.
Oh.
It's basically her Dagobah moment.
Okay, that's what I figured.
Yeah. It's very short lived. It's a pretty cool lightsaber that she uses, the dark side one.
The one that's
that collapsible one type thing. Yeah. That was really cool. But it was just a dark vision.
Boring.
Yeah.
I figured that's what it was.
So basically at the end of the movie, basically the rebellion wins.
Of course, they already won already, technically. But
Palpatine dies.
Did he?
That's the thing.
Well,
like, dies.
Did he die on screen?
I assume yes.
Does she kill him?
Both she and Kylo do.
They redeem him?
They do redeem.
God damn it! He should have died.
No, he actually. And
one of them needed to die.
And at one point, well, he does die.
Good.
Yeah. But at one point, he actually throws his that crossbar lightsaber. He actually throws it in.
Force throw.
They were battling on part of the Death Star in the
crash
in Endor, yeah. And so afterwards, like he throws it, and that's basically his like.
I refuse.
I'm not doing the dark side stuff anymore.
Oh, he just throws it to the ground. I thought you meant he uses the move where he throws the lightsaber and hits somebody with it.
No. Yeah, he throws it like Luke did with the. Like in episode 8, but no, he throws it like I don't want this anymore. But basically, yes, they work together. Rey ends up killing Palpatine, and then at the end of the movie, basically, there's a scene where there's this old woman asking who Rey is, and she says, "I'm Rey," and she's like, "Rey, do you have a last name?" And she says, "Yes," and then she says, "Skywalker." It's Rey Skywalker.
Dumb.
And then
Her or Kylo needed
end
to
credits.
die. Her or Kylo needed to die.
Well, Kylo did. Kylo died.
Try to redeeming him is just stupid. That's one of the things I really hate with Star Wars overall, is there's always that, oh, I'm a good character, I follow the dark side, now I'm going to be redeemed, and I'm good. It's like, no.
And they
just let someone stay dark and die.
And they did use a new Force power that has actually been seen on The Mandalorian.
Which one?
Force healing.
Oh, yeah. That's been around since the games.
Yeah,
and
so
stuff,
they used it for the first time in a movie in this one.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's it. Skywalker's all done, huh?
So Skywalker Saga is concluded.
I find that hard to believe.
And they even said,
actually, maybe
they even said too that in the future
It
Disney
really
said
needs to.
they're staying away from trilogies now. If they do Star Wars movies, it's literally they want to do just one part movies.
They need to do
they
a
don't want to
two-part
do trilogies.
Knights of the Old Republic.
See, that's where I
want the Old Republic era.
There was talk of that they had tapped D.B. Weiss and David Benioff.
Yeah, I know.
And they thought that that's what they were going to do because of the whole Game of Thrones thing. And actually, D.B. Weiss and Benioff walked away because of
how bad Game of Thrones went over.
No. Everybody thinks that it's they were fired from Star. They weren't. They were literally given a contract with Netflix to produce 10 shows.
Yeah,
8 or 10 shows.
They were given a lot of money,
and they were paid $250 million for that.
Wow.
To basically do 8 shows at like 8 episodes apiece. That's it for $250 million. Yeah, I'd walk away from Star Wars 2 for that.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of eras that they should touch and just ignore the era of 1 through 9.
Yeah, well.
So extended universe stuff includes all the games. Yeah. So. Mm-hmm. I know you've not seen any of the movies.
No.
Okay, well, you said you've seen 2 of them.
Like 2 of them.
So you've not seen the movies.
No. Not enough to care.
I guarantee you probably weren't paying attention when you watched them either.
I was young. So, I remember 1 very well. 4 and 5, or 4 or 5 not so much.
I know you don't read because I don't think you know how to. So you've never touched a book.
Our RPG player exclusively over here, but I can't read.
Yeah. And then you've never read any of the comics or stuff, but you've played some of the games.
Yes, I played the 2 Knights of the Old Republic games on the Xbox, which I absolutely loved. I loved the Knights of the Old Republic games.
Yeah,
maybe to me the reason the movies don't resonate so much with me is because at the time
you're used to being hands-on with the Force.
4, 5, and 6, the Force feels very mystical. Underneath the surface. There is Force, and people use it, but you really don't see anything happen, other than when he starts Force lightning and Force shocking the shit out of what's his face.
That's actually one of the biggest complaints about Star Wars overall. You look at episodes 1, 4, 5, and 6.
The Force is very subdued.
Well, the Force is some mystic hokey-pokey that no one believes in.
I can influence your mind, but no one notices.
It's bullshit. Everyone thinks it's some old mysticism. But then 1, 2, and 3 establishes that the Jedi were the Knights of the Republic.
Yeah.
That means anyone who's part of the Republic that has ever interacted with Jedi knows who the fuck the Jedi are.
Yeah.
Knows what they do. So how is it when 4, 5, and 6 come along, no one knows what the fuck the Force is? It makes no sense. That's part of the reason 1, 2, and 3 are maligned as much as they are.
Well, and that's not to jump off this wagon too quickly, but that was one thing that I also had an issue with episode 7, when they are talking about Luke Skywalker as if he's like this myth, this legend, all the rumors you've heard or all the legends, it's like they're all true. It's like, what do you mean what legend? Literally just 50 years ago he destroyed the Empire.
But that was
it.
See, I didn't take it so much as he doesn't exist. It's more of a he was a hero of the fight against the Empire who a bunch of myth built up around.
Maybe that's
so. It sure seems like he didn't do a whole lot.
I mean, it's like take some George Washington. How much of what we know about him is what actually happened versus the myths and the stories about him that came up because of some of the stuff he did.
But people don't look at George Washington and be like, he's a hero, like they would Luke. They kind of built Luke up like he's
all right, fine,
some grand and glory, like he did feats no one's ever done before in terms of the Force, and it's like, dude, what fucker wasn't even a Jedi?
So it's
so I kind of see where Paul's coming from on that point, where it's like, And that's part of where I think I fell off on the movies is the fact that the Force really isn't utilized as like it should.
Yeah.
But then you get to the 2 games and it's like it's spells really. What would be the word? They're not spells.
Yeah, they're spells.
And I guess
They're space spells.
Space spells. But it's like
they're space wizards fighting with space swords.
Yeah.
Against space guns. It's fucking spells.
Pew, pew. But it just seems like they're underutilized, and to me that's where it's.
Yeah, come on, let's deflect it.
But like I don't know, and because I like that type of shit. So
Yeah.
like for me, the mythos and the stuff, like I don't care about the guns and the fucking. Oh, I'm a space bandit. My name's Han Solo. Like I don't give a fuck about
My
Han
name's
Solo.
Han.
I hate Han Solo. He's a douche to me. Like, oh, I love you. I know, or whatever the fuck he says.
Hey, she hits him back with it though.
To be honest,
He says, "I love
see,
you." I know.
But that one was actually pretty good because
It makes sense.
well,
in
no, but
context.
and it was written that he said "I love you" back, but Harrison Ford was like, "This dude's an asshole.
Yeah.
He's not going to say that." So
Right.
that's why he ad-libbed the whole "I know."
But that's to me like why would he be a beloved character? Like to me, that's where I fall off.
Like I said,
I can't really relate to
it's
him.
the scoundrel with the heart of gold type.
Yes,
thing.
because what
True.
ended up happening in episode 4 was he basically joined the rebellion to
Right.
Get
to help
paid.
with this one thing, and basically Princess Leia said, "We're going to pay you handsomely." Well, he did what he was supposed to do, and he's like, "I'm taking this money and I'm leaving." And so basically when they were at their lowest point where it looked like they were going to fail, when Luke was making that final run
He
to the
shows
Death
up out
Star,
of nowhere
he
to help
shows up
save
out of nowhere, helps him, and that's what he's like, "You're all clear,
Because
kid, now
honestly,
blow this thing
you
and
gotta
go
remember,
home." So he came back.
In
when he didn't
episode
have to.
4, he was literally just hired to ferry Obi-Wan and Luke
Right.
off of Tatooine
That's it.
to a rebel base. That's literally
Yep.
all he's there for.
Yeah, he didn't want to get killed or anything like that. Like that's,
He's not sticking
yeah.
like he's a smuggler and like a guy that makes his money doing illegal stuff. Why the fuck would he care about anything?
In the most conspicuous
And-
ship
and kind
ever
of a-
created in the Star Wars universe.
Well,
Except for
and
that's-
honestly,
they
kind
don't
of
touch
gutless.
on that, but that's not the only ship of that style.
I know, it's just funny though, and it's like you're supposed to be this smuggler incognito guy, and I'm traveling in the ship that is literally the only one you ever see.
Yeah.
Well, and it's
Oh,
funny
that
too,
must be his
because
ship.
when you think about it too, is like he's actually pretty gutless too. Like he
He's a
dropped
coward.
he dropped his spice load, which spice is kind of like the drug of
It's moon sugar.
yeah.
Skooma.
Yeah.
But he drops a load because he was boarded by the Empire, and then it's like he gets his money and he just wants to run away because he doesn't want to risk his life.
Not to mention
And
Jabba and stuff are after him because he screwed up.
yeah, exactly.
So he's
And
a wanted man by a
he's-
criminal cartel.
Yeah, so he's actually pretty cowardly. So for him to come back, like that was huge.
Yeah, I suppose so.
That's why the Solo movie sucks. Is because they kind of paint him to be something else,
Yeah.
and it's not within his character to be that way. But yeah, like the games have better overall stories usually.
Yeah, because I loved Revan, even
The whole
Freya. I didn't mind
the
her.
whole reveal,
Freya,
you know, going against Malik the whole time, and the Jedi ripped you apart from the Force and did all this
Yeah.
sort of shit.
It was cool.
And then all of a sudden, it's the twist ending of, oh, Revan didn't die. You are Revan.
Yeah,
That was a big blow in that type of game back then.
And it was cool because I remember the choice or the dialogue choice where if you chose to accept that you were Revan or whatever, like it alienated you from certain party members.
Yeah.
Or like because they were, was it if you chose to embrace it, like you lost all Jedi characters or something like that? Like it went one way or the other
Well, no,
depending on
because
which
you
path
can
you chose.
Bastila, you can corrupt to the dark side.
Oh, that's right, you could.
There is an ending where you corrupt
forgot about
Bastila to stand next to you at the end. So there was like a couple different endings. There was the light side ending, which was
That's right, because you were on the beach with all your party members.
Yeah.
And depending on the choice you made, you killed off the rest of the characters.
They're like
Or
it influences
something
the
happened.
end quite a bit.
It was a really cool idea, and I loved that.
And
That
going
twist
fight,
to me...
going to fight Malik and stuff like that. Yeah.
That twist to me at the end where you find out you were Revan was fucking awesome. Because it just, to me, it was something that hadn't at that point been done. Or
Yeah.
that I had seen. So I loved that whole story arc, and even just the gameplay in general was a lot
Well, and it was
fun.
just really well done. Even if that type of story had been done before, It was just really well told in the games.
Yeah, because you really, to me, I had no idea that you were Revan. Like, I remember...
It was a big deal back then,
Yeah, I remember little snippets here and there where, like, a person would recognize you or something.
Or they thought they did, and you'd just be like, no, you got me with someone else. And then they'd be like, oh, yeah, probably. And
yeah, so it's like little things like that. Even the second one, where it was Treya, which was, you kind of saw coming, because you knew she was going to turn on you anyway.
Right at the beginning, you knew she was kind of a bitch.
Yeah, but, like, even that whole idea was really cool to me. I loved 2.
Granted, I like 2 more than 1 simply because in the first one, unless you like blitz through the game, you don't get force powers for quite a long time.
You don't get force powers till you either choose the Jedi or whatever.
And so like you're already a good chunk away into the game building the type of character that all of a sudden like you get to that point and it's like, well, you already have all this other stuff. Why would like switching over? It sucks. It makes you super weak. Yeah. Whereas 2, it's the first time you level up, we're reestablishing your connection to the Force.
Yeah.
You're gonna start doing stuff. Choose what your basic class was and stuff like that. So
yeah, 2 handled it much better. But it was the games to me, even just the Old Republic in general. I liked the lore a lot. So it's like I feel like I would be able to get into that if they ever did movies based on the Old Republic. So, but as far as like the Skywalker shit, like I don't think I could really get into it.
Yeah.
But who knows? That's I know there were actually a shitload of fucking Star Wars games.
They go all the way back to arcade originally.
Really?
Yeah.
Star Wars arcade. Yeah.
The vector graphics, like TIE Fighter games.
That was before. Yeah, that was before it was on the Atari.
Yeah,
because I remember the Atari ones.
Then there was Atari. Did NES have one?
Yeah. Oh yeah. They had 2 of them.
Oh, okay. And then I know Super Nintendo's got the first notorious one. Super Empire Strikes Back.
Well, they had all the Super Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Super Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, those dicks. And
Nintendo
Empire was terrible.
Nintendo had just Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. For some reason, they didn't do Return of the Jedi on the Nintendo. Atari, they did Star Wars, they did Empire Strikes Back, they did Return of the Jedi, and then they did some offshoot ones called Jedi Power Battles. I believe they also did one called the Battle of Endor. Which is funny because Jedi Power Battles ends up getting reused for the PS1 game.
Yeah. I remember that.
There was a Star Wars Jedi Power Battle.
Oh, Jedi Arena Battle. I'm sorry. It was called Jedi Arena Battle.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it wasn't. Yes, Power Battles was PlayStation.
Yeah, where you could be Plo Koon and stuff like that. That one was really fun.
I like that one because they still had the lightsabers wrong in that one too, where Mace Windu had a blue lightsaber.
Oh yeah,
and Coyote Mundi had the purple lightsaber.
Yeah,
when it was supposed to be the other way around.
That's funny.
But Hasbro messed that one up when they initially packaged. Because neither character in episode 1 used their lightsaber, so they didn't know which one had which lightsaber, and it wasn't found out until episode 2 that it's like, oh, Mace Windu was supposed to have the purple lightsaber.
Well, and it's funny because like in the movies, the whole reason he wanted the purple lightsaber was for him to stand out. Mm-hmm. Because in the movies there was only red, blue, and green.
Yeah.
But in the games, they had already established that their lightsabers came in a bunch of different colors.
Mm-hmm. It was based on the crystal in it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one other thing that they eventually changed later is originally the crystals that were in the lightsaber were one thing, and then there were the Kyber crystals.
Right.
Which were actually force amplifying crystals that, like, in the extended universe, Palpatine and Vader used to make themselves more powerful. Well, they reestablished, since I think Disney took over, maybe slightly before that, Kyber crystals are what's in lightsabers, and that's what powers a lightsaber.
Oh, okay.
And it's really weird. So it's one of those things where it's like, I guess it works, and then like...
Because in Old Republic, when you build a lightsaber, don't you have like the...
Well, you also
call it a focus crystal, and then you had a Kyber crystal or something like that?
Yeah, and then you also got the special one that grew with you.
Yeah.
Because like the crystals pick their force user, basically.
Yeah.
They're on the same wavelength of the force as you, so you resonate together.
That was a cool scene when you finally meet like the Jedi Council and you build your first lightsaber and shit, and you get to choose the color and the whether it's the short or the dual or the staff. It was
that's cool.
It was really
you got
neat.
Single lightsaber.
You could get the short one, like the.
Like a dagger,
like
or
the
something?
Offhand one. Yeah, you could get like an off saber. You could get the staff one, like Darth Maul had, and then you could do the two.
Yeah.
It was really cool. Like just the amount of styles there were. But that I thought was a cool part.
Yeah.
And then even in the second one, when you come back to that place and it's invaded, and you fighting off everybody, like it was, the games were so much cooler to me.
And the cast
seemed,
was better.
Yeah, and it just seemed more interesting than I guess the movies ever did. So like, to answer your question, kind of from the beginning, is like why I don't like it. Well, there you go.
I just don't know why you hate it. It's okay.
I don't hate it.
It's okay not to like it, but why do you hate it?
I don't hate it. I'm disinterested.
You make fun of me for liking it.
That's just just you.
That means hating.
We just make fun of you in general.
That's just you. Like, I don't like Harry Potter either.
Oh God.
Good concepts to me.
Yes, because you hate yourself. We understand that. You look like Harry Potter.
Just give yourself a little lightning bolt in your Harry.
Like, I appreciate the Harry Potter movies. I never read the books. I like seeing the growth of the character from... I mean, I've never watched them, but I like
From
that...
douchebag to douchebag?
So
cool ideas.
So fun little fact here.
Yes.
First time
Oh my god.
that I was over at Andy's house,
Fuck you.
he had done a drawing that was on like a mirror or something like that. And I looked at it and I was like, "Oh, when did you draw this? It looks like Harry Potter."
Oh my god, I hate you.
And he looked at me and he said,
It was a self-portrait.
"This was a self-portrait. It's not Harry Potter." I'm like, "Oh." But
Harry Potter!
but the hair, it's got the swoop and everything like Harry Potter has.
I came first.
Are you sure? Are you
right?
sure that he's like, "No. It was a self-portrait. It's me. It's not Harry Potter."
It was the worst.
And every time, ever since I saw it, every time I would see it, "Oh look, it's Harry Potter!"
To have glasses and brown hair in the 90s and 2000s when that movie started coming out, you were fucked.
I would threaten him every time. I'm like, "Don't make me draw a lightning bolt on that damn picture right there."
But no, like, Harry Potter I appreciate. It's an interesting idea. Like, I remember the one movie I was forced to watch that I don't remember much of, but I remember an end scene where the guy with no nose, what's his name? Voldemort, like, he does, like, this sonic spell that shatters all the glass in a cathedral, and he makes a tornado out of the fucking glass. It was fucking incredible looking, and I thought it was a cool idea. But, like, I could never get into the lore of Harry Potter.
It's such a good concept, but man, is it poorly done.
Yeah, like that I couldn't do. Lord of the Rings, same way. I thought Lord of the Rings was the stalest fucking story I had ever heard in my life.
Wrong. But you were forced to listen to it on the drive to work over
that is true.
How many weeks?
I disliked it even from the get-go.
That is actually one of the very few movies where I literally, those movies, like the uncut ones, are like 4 hours a piece.
Yeah,
I have watched that trilogy multiple times, and I could still watch it. I could still sit down and watch it and enjoy it because those movies, they still hold up today. Like, they look great, and they were made 20 years ago.
But that's
really that old?
For some reason,
2001 was the first one.
For some reason, the lore of Lord of the Rings, I cannot get into.
It's also what established basically everything you like about fantasy.
But that's fine. But I still, it's just I can't stand the characters. I can't stand the creatures. Like, I just don't like anything. The big fucking eyeball on a tower. Well, that's fucking stupid.
That's Sauron.
I don't give a fuck what he is. He's dumb. I hate the idea of him.
That literally wasn't him. That was just his magic.
That really was
stupid.
Because that was his tower.
It's stupid. To me, it's
Tower
dumb.
of Isengard.
But I just there's so much of it. I don't like Frodo. I don't like Samwise. I can't connect to any character in that world
because you don't have taste.
I suppose maybe Star Wars is kind of the same way. I find no way to connect to any character. Whereas I suppose in the games you are the character, so I can connect to them because I get to make the choices for. I don't know. Maybe that's my biggest issue with a lot of those movies.
Well, I would say, especially with Lord of the Rings too, you didn't grow up reading that stuff.
No, I definitely didn't.
So, I read those books when I read The Hobbit when I was really, really little. I watched the original 70.
Yeah, the 70s. Yeah, it was like 70. Yeah, I think you're right. 78. 78.
Like the original animated movies.
Ralph Bakshi.
They were. And, those were trippy as weird, but...
And for me, my first because technically that's fantasy, sort of. Well, I mean, it is, essentially.
yeah.
Like, my first experiences with, like, a fantasy genre like that were from, like, Dragon Warriors and Final Fantasies, where I am the characters. So for me to try to relate to a character that's already established, like, it was very difficult for me to get into that kind of a thing.
Honestly, I grew up reading comics and books and stuff like that long before I was playing games. So.
And the only comics I was reading was Sonic the fucking Hedgehog.
You do not count.
The Hedgehog comics were so bad. But, like, that's kind of where I came from. So, like, when Lord of the Rings, like, the movies came out and people were going ape shit, I'm just like, I don't get it. I don't understand your guys' fervor for these. Like, Harry Potter, Alec read the books growing up.
I tried reading the books.
I tried.
I too. I read those, like, I read 1 and 2 and made it through almost, I think, all of 3. But the books are just...
To me, they seem so nonsensical.
Well, it's not that. It's like I understand it gets better as the series goes on.
Obviously, yeah.
But like her writing in the first one, when you go from reading like Lord of the Rings or like Mists of Avalon and stuff, where it's literally like a tome I could beat you to death with, and like the style of writing, like going from reading that to trying to read what she wrote, and you're like, this is size 16 font, and it's like...
It's literally like
it sounds like baby's first book.
Yeah, it's like a high schooler could have written this.
Yeah, it's bad, and like, okay, I get it. At the time, she was, you know, homeless and stuff like that.
Living out of her car. Yeah.
And like, so it's like, okay, and yeah, her writing got better, and she did better when she had better, like, published, like, not publisher, but an editor to go through and do stuff, and it's like, okay, cool.
I can see that,
it's like, they're so... boring compared to the stuff I was growing up reading, or like even just reading like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Like, it's a book of nonsense. Alice in Wonderland, one of my favorite books ever, is a book of nonsense if you really look at it, but it's still better written than anything she did.
But Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a lot more funny.
There's that too.
I like the humor of it.
So I don't know, but obviously all 3 or 4 of these are enormous IPs that are, you know, successful is an understatement.
Yeah.
You know?
Cultural phenomenon.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, Star Wars is such a phenomenon. Fucking Family Guy did an entire series of just recapping those movies. That's how I've seen the original trilogy. The Family Guy trilogy.
And actually, the sad part is they're pretty accurate.
It's pretty faithful.
Yeah, they are.
Other than the we're gonna get the couch out of the dumps, the trash compactor part.
Yeah. Well, that part just made me laugh. But so one thing I wanted to ask is, with the arrival of the MCU, do you think that dethroned Star Wars as far as being a cultural phenomenon? No. Would you say the Marvel Cinematic Universe is bigger than Star Wars?
Yes.
As of right now, yes. Yes, it is.
Would you say
I don't think it will ever overshadow it.
You don't think so?
See, I disagree, because what took Star Wars 30 plus years to do, MCU did in 10.
But
no,
MCU also came at a time when graphics and storytelling and stuff had evolved to that point.
No, it did not take Star Wars 30 years to get to that point. I mean, it was right out of the starting gate in 1977. It was a humongous
it was,
success.
but it also was not to the level that the MCU has done stuff.
Well,
that could be a sign of the times.
But
that could be a sign of the times.
That's part. I suppose that's part of it, and like the difference in economy between then and now. But like, the MCU has basically, Star Wars did not define sci-fi.
No,
it pulled from like Flash Gordon and other serials like that. Mm-hmm. The MCU has defined what is a comic book movie.
Yeah.
Star Wars has never done that. As much as I love Star Wars, it has not quite defined things the same way that the MCU has.
Yeah, but I also feel like you had there was a lot more to pull from. Like, the Star Wars universe had to be created literally just from those first several movies.
Yeah.
With the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
they had ages of backlore.
They had the playground. They had 80 years of history.
And that's why I think the MCU is bigger, is because it has that much bigger like long-lasting.
You have individual characters like the Hulk,
Yeah.
Captain America, and Iron Man who have very distinct
And yet
histories
DC
and
can't
origins.
seem to pull it off.
That is so weird. That is so weird that they can't. They have such great IPs, such great characters, and they can't pull off a movie.
They can't make movies to save their lives.
Green Lantern. I like Green Lantern.
Not the
But-
movie, though.
Not the movies at all.
Oh, okay. I was gonna
No,
say.
no, I just talking about
I was
characters.
gonna say because wow, you're one of
No.
the few who actually like that
I've
movie.
never seen it.
To be honest,
I like Green Lantern as a
I
character.
actually rewatched it recently.
I don't think it's as bad as people claim it.
Had
to be,
it
but
not
it's
been for the
good.
shitty CGI and the unnecessarily changing of Parallax to a giant space cloud,
Yeah.
it might have been better. But then
Mm-hmm.
there's also the fact that it's fucking Green Lantern. I have the most powerful weapon in the world that I can make anything out of my imagination. I'm gonna make a boxing glove.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a racetrack and
well-
Wasn't that part of who had the ring, though? Or who was the Green Lantern?
no, it's basically whoever was in charge of writing, and they suck.
Because I could have sworn every other one of the Lanterns, whether it was it Hal Jordan, and who was the other?
Kyle Rayner.
Kyle
Didn't they all
Rayner,
make
Guy
different
Gardner.
stuff with the
Yeah,
ring based
yeah,
on their
they could.
personality?
But the funny thing is,
Yeah.
like, really the only thing that changed originally was the detail in their constructs. Because Kyle Rayner, well, Hal was a test pilot. Kyle was an artist.
Right.
So his constructs were more detailed, but, like, Hal's were simple and more effective.
Right.
And then Guy Gardner came, and you're like, okay, meathead, what are you going to do?
So I felt like the rings were more like based on the personality of who controlled it,
yeah, but it's
rather
still
than
even,
this thing is infinitely possible. It's just who has the
Oh,
ring
no,
at
it
the
is
time.
still infinitely possible no matter who has it.
I suppose.
All of them are. All 8, whatever colors it is now.
It's
the
7.
Because it's green.
You got
Oh,
black.
Maybe it's 8. Maybe it's 8.
Black
yeah.
and white.
Yeah.
Not to
Yeah.
mention there's also one other one that combines all of them.
That's a light spectrum.
No,
so
well, I didn't say
whatever.
it's... No, what's the other one?
But actually, sorry
There's
to
the new
go.
one, too.
Well, there's red, or I think it's all.
they
the,
all, like, overlap.
It's all
It's
the.
Reggie
It's all the
Biv,
rainbow.
yeah.
Yeah, it's Reggie Biv. So
And
it's
then black,
basically
white.
8. Yeah.
But that goes back to
9,
one
10,
thing
yeah,
you
black
had
and white.
you had mentioned kind of sort of in passing is I think Star Wars was a bigger feat to make the
Yeah,
phenomenon.
okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, all of Star Wars effects, at least for as much as I can remember, in 4, 5, 6, wasn't it all basically practical effects?
Yeah.
For the most part.
Whereas the MCU is a lot of CGI, so you can do whatever the fuck
that's,
you want.
But that's a sign of the times too, though.
But it wasn't even in Episode 1. Then weren't some of the prequel trilogies practical effects too?
Not much of it.
90%
Was it?
CG.
I thought that was a point they wanted to make, is that it wanted to stick to practical as much as possible.
They did in episode 7 and
Maybe that was
9
it.
is that J.J. Abrams went back to more practical effects.
Which
than-
looks better.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Which that's the one thing I definitely give the original trilogy is the practical effects actually looks good for the time. So like to see that kind of shit, like I feel like the Star Wars, while it didn't quite define that genre, it did. It was an impressive feat to pull off.
But honestly, I feel like people's likes and
That's the other one I couldn't think of. Ultraviolet. The new
no,
one.
I didn't even know that ultraviolet.
Yep.
was color.
Oh,
Okay.
UV light.
Yep.
But that is one thing that. God damn it! Now, what was I gonna say?
Star Wars versus they're building from
No,
nothing.
I know
versus,
that. I know that, but the people's interest, the way that they go. I mean, I feel like they're always constantly shifting. They're
Yeah.
always constantly changing.
Yeah.
So yes, at one point Star Wars was bigger than anything in comic books, and in fact, Star Wars was so big that
It
they
became
started.
comics.
It became a comic. And now the Marvel Cinematic Universe is like this big multi-billion-dollar juggernaut that just can't be stopped. Now even people who don't even like comic books like comic book movies, and it's always going around like that. But the moral of the story, to me at least, is it doesn't matter what's bigger because
That's always changing.
Something's always going to be bigger, and something's always going to fall off the road. But you can walk up to anybody, any stranger, and say, "What's Star Wars?" They'll know what you're talking about. And
I can literally say the same thing
And
about
you can say
Guardians
this-
of the Galaxy now.
yes, and you can say the same thing about Marvel books.
prior to the MCU, other than like comic fans, who the fuck
Yeah,
knew who
I
the
had-
Guardians were?
no,
I had no
Yeah.
idea.
Or even the fact that the Guardians and the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 are the second iteration of the Guardians.
Yes, it's not. Yeah, it's definitely not the first. It's actually even maybe
third.
even the third iteration
Maybe,
of them.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like
It was
no
the
one other than
2008.
like diehard comic fans
It was-
knew who these people were.
it was the
But
Dan-
now I can go up to someone and be like, "Who's Groot?"
It was the Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning run
And
of Guardians of
Groot
the Galaxy.
became like, so it's one of those things like Groot became like what Vader used to be. Mm-hmm. And like, yeah, you may not understand where all these characters are, but you know who they are.
Well, but that's my point, is that regardless of what one is more popular at the time, each one has their place in pop culture history.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're always going to be an iconic and recognizable brand.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And nothing's going to stop that.
Yeah, that'll never change.
I was about to say, to me, Star Wars feels like a bigger juggernaut, because you really went from an age where communication was hard, because there was no internet back then, to Star Wars was still, even back when we were growing up in the 80s, was a household name. They knew who Star Wars was back then. So, I mean, to have that happen, and now, like you said, people who don't even like comics like the movies.
And they know what the characters are.
And they know what the characters are, like, but this is also in an age of tech, or an age of information. Mm-hmm. So it's like...
Yeah, but how many people properly use it to learn stuff?
Well... Does anybody...
Is
that what Wikipedia is for?
Yeah, we'll see. Aren't there
Other than shit-talking other people.
Yeah, there's only two things the internet's used for. Shit-talking and watching porn. Really? What else is there? So, like...
There's an internet beyond that?
Star Wars, while I don't...
Is there a porn site for shit-talking?
Yes.
I think there is.
Oh, yeah. Berating porn? Are you crazy? You're a piece of shit! It's humiliation porn. That's what it's called. Humiliation porn. Essentially dominatrix.
Oh,
is kind of that.
That's terrible.
But without the pain.
That's funny.
But to me, I may not like Star Wars as much as anybody, but I appreciate what it's done.
Oh, yeah, I definitely do.
I'm glad that you at least appreciate it and what it's done.
Just like Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo, I may not like it. It's not my favorite by any means. But that one I've actually experienced because I have played that multiple times through. But I appreciate what it's done for the series, if not culture in general. So, Star Wars, man, holy shit!
Link to the Past is what caused
the downfall of Zelda.
No. Link to the Past is what caused Zelda 2 to become a black sheep.
Yes, it did.
Of the family. It was actually a very well-received game, and then because Link to the Past was so well-beloved, then all of a sudden Adventures of Link just turned into, like, what was this?
The opposite of the way stuff happens now.
I know.
Usually it's the new game comes out, everyone hates it. Then the next game comes out, everyone suddenly hates that one and loves the previous one, and it keeps going like that.
You're so right about that. Actually, that's literally how
it's a cycle that keeps happening.
It's the same thing with movies, where all these movies that came out, like maybe even when we were kids and stuff, it's like it turned into these, like, they were terrible movies.
Look at how big cult movies became.
Yeah,
look at us. We watch nothing but B movies. Well, I do anyway, and I love how bad they are.
Well, but I'm even talking, like, I've seen, like, documentaries on, like, movies, like, have you ever heard of Hocus Pocus?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, like, that movie was actually, like, critically panned, and it did.
Disney thought it was going to flop, and that's why they changed it from a Halloween release date to, like, April. I think it was the next year.
It did absolutely terrible, but then all of a sudden it's like
it's a phenomenon.
The video sales were, like, through the roof. People loved the video.
It failed at the theater, but when
and then it became a cult classic. Yeah. It's like
Boondock Saints.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like what do you want, people?
In cases like Boondock Saints, I also think that was due to
that was a lot of the director.
Well, not just that, but a smaller theatrical release. Whereas Hocus Pocus, it's a Disney-backed movie.
Oh yeah, that was everywhere.
It was in most major theaters, and for some reason, just because of when they released it, it did bad.
Care. Yeah, they didn't care for it, but then it became a cult classic.
Yeah, once Disney Channel, like ABC and like Disney Channel started showing it, the VHSs and stuff flew off the shelves, and it's like now it's one of those movies where it's like, oh, find someone who doesn't like it, and you're like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah,
I don't like Hocus Pocus.
It's okay.
Well, no, it's funny because nowadays, like you said, it's like try to find somebody who doesn't like it. It's like when back then it was like, oh, you like it? You really like that movie?
Yeah.
It's like, come on, dude.
Yeah, just like people who, when I tell them I love Adventures of Link is my favorite Zelda, and they're just like,
what's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you?
I'm sorry, when that game came out, like, that was actually one of the most popular games of its time.
Still one of the better ones in the franchise, especially when you compare it to, like, Spirit Tracks.
Well, Spirit Tracks we don't talk about.
That's
but actually, that's funny, because even Ocarina of Time, it's touted as one of the best Zeldas to date, and yet I go back and I look at it and I'm just like,
I don't think it's aged gracefully.
well,
No.
definitely not. But even the remake of it for the 3DS, like I still, playing through it, it's like I really didn't like that game all that much. Like I liked Majora's Mask a lot because of the darker themes to it. Twilight Princess still felt kind of dark. Skyward Sword wasn't dark per se, but had dark undertones, and I liked that a lot. Even though people hated Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
But it's like there's games throughout this franchise. Wind Waker I loved, but I don't know. It's definitely interesting. It's an interesting. The masses are
They're dumb, fickle.
fickle.
They just don't know what they want.
They don't know what they want. They're when you ask somebody what they want to eat, I don't know. Where do you want to go to eat? Anything. But for a damn fact, it's not anything.
No, it's not, because then you...
As soon as I say one thing, no,
It's
it's
like,
not.
No, I don't
all
want
right, let's go to Taco Bell. Nah, I'm not really feeling like Taco Bell.
I just said
anything! Anything but that.
It's funny. We should have ended this episode like 20 minutes ago.
No, it doesn't.
But there is a meme I remember seeing where it's about like husbands and wives when you ask the wife what she wants to eat and she says I don't care or whatever or I don't know, and it was basically just bring her somewhere and she'll appreciate the fact that you brought her or whatever. And I'm thinking in the back of my head,
No.
she doesn't want anything I'm gonna bring to her to.
No.
So it's like, this is the worst advice you can possibly give to somebody. A woman knows what she's want to eat, or what she wants to eat. She's not going to tell you. You got to figure it out. That's half the fun!
Sure, that's fun.
If it was my choice, it'd be mac and cheese, pizza, or chicken strips. Every day for the rest of our lives. Shit.
Oh,
So that's funny you said that. Alright, well that's our Star Wars episode. Holy shit.
Yeah, that was a long one.
I feel like we could
Star
go
Wars
even
could
farther.
go longer.
I could go longer. with
Between the
Star Wars.
comics
Oh,
and
yeah.
the books, the games, we could talk about it for hours.
We could delve into Paul's history with collecting the figures. I mean,
Oh,
even
shit,
the
yeah.
toys were a phenomenon in and of itself. But maybe we'll save that idea for when we get into like a marketing episode of some sort where
I
we
think that'd
talk
be a good
about
episode.
toys of the 90s, or because we made a comment that we were the best generation for toys.
We did have the best generation.
Yeah, so maybe that's a topic we could get into.
We
in
also
that.
had a shitty TV shows to sell those toys, but we ate it up.
Of course we did.
So,
Yeah.
But that'll do it for this episode of the PTG Powercast. So, what are your guys' thoughts on Star Wars? Did you like Episode 9? What's your thought on the entire saga? Oh my god!
oh, and because I promised, Darksaber.
What's a Darksaber?
Huh?
I'm spoiling Mandalorian for Paul. Darksaber.
God damn you.
Yay! Our day is
I
complete!
told you it would be one word. It doesn't ruin the episode at all.
I made it so far. I've been staying off the internet to try to avoid spoilers.
That doesn't
And
spoil
you
the story.
literally gave it away with one
Actually,
word.
You know what the sad part is? Everyone I've talked to about that episode has no idea what the fuck I'm talking
Oh
about.
my god,
Wow.
come on.
No Star Wars fans.
Sad part is they all claim to be Star Wars fans. I'm like, you're dumb. Go away.
So, what are your guys' thoughts on it? What do you like? What don't you like? Leave us a comment.
But yes, I am curious as to what your thoughts are on episode 9 if you have seen it. So leave comments. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if I'm off base on what I had said, or if you agree.
Let us know if you prefer like the old extended or now legacy universe, like the books and comics, or do you prefer all the newer stuff they've
Yeah.
been doing?
That's a good point.
Maybe at some point I will watch all 9 eventually.
You're not
That could be
going
for our bad movie nights.
Eventually, I actually would like to watch all of the movies at some point, just
We
to
could
see if
even-
maybe my perception
Or
changes. of it.
maybe we can even we can break it into 3 nights or something like that, where we'll do one trilogy, the next trilogy, and then the final.
No,
trilogy.
all 9,
All 9 in one day?
all 9 in one day.
I could do it.
I could do it.
Just make sure there's a lot of
Yes,
booze and
You
pizza.
do realize 9 movies at like 2 hours apiece. That's like
It's almost a full day.
okay.
I can do it.
Just make sure there's
I
enough
could do-
pizza and
There is no fucking.
Give me
way
enough
you can do it.
pizza. Give me enough drinks. Give me enough
Bathroom
energy drinks. Give me enough snacks. I'll eat my way through anything. It don't even fucking matter.
As evidenced by the one we watched last time.
Oh God.
All right, guys.
Okay. So hit us up on Facebook. Please stop.
Fuck Thanksgiving 3.
No, stop. Hands up on Twitter.
Go to PowerCastGaming.tv. Takes you directly to the channel where you can watch us blast our way through the NES collection.
And you can watch our other side quest videos where we play Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, PlayStation, and everything else that's not Nintendo.
Absolutely. So that's it for the PTG Powercast.
Yes. So, next time... Wait, there is no next time. You're listening with Power!
Nicely done.
I actually said it on my own.
I let you.